Hello, and welcome back to And the Runner-Up Is. Hope everyone's having a great new year. I am Kevin Jacobson, your host as always, and today I have an all-star panel of guests that you have heard on this show before, some of them multiple times, some of them making their third appearance, if you can believe it. And so let's just run down the line here, because today we will be talking about the 2018 Oscar race as it stands now. We're about a week away from nominations, where all the craziness is going to go down. So I wanted to have a good combination of people to assess the race as it is now. So first off, we have the founder and editor-in-chief of Awards Watch, Mr. Erik Anderson.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome, welcome. I also have the contributing writer at Gold Derby, who also has his own awards blog at The Awards Connection, Andrew Carden.
Hey, Kevin. And can I just say, I think we can all agree that you are the Kevin who should be hosting the Oscars.
I mean, I've been saying it all along. Thank you very much. Get that change.org campaign.
Cosign.
Yes. So next up, we have a contributing editor at Gold Derby, Mr. Rob Licuria.
Hello, hello.
Hello. All the way from Australia. It's Wednesday over there. So in a whole, yes. So I also have the host of the Chasing the Gold podcast and member of the In Session film team, Ryan McQuade.
Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well.
Indeed. And finally, we have the editor-in-chief of Next Best Picture, Mr. Matt Neglia.
This is happening. This is really happening. All of us on a podcast together. This is going to be awesome.
Yes. It is truly the Avengers of this particular podcast.
Hell yeah.
So, I've gathered you all here today because I wanted to get a handle on this messy-ass Oscar race. We've talked a lot about the past on this show, of course, 40 years of Oscar history. So now I want to talk about whether any of that will perhaps inform what is going to go down this year, or if we just have basically a fresh new take on what the Academy will be doing with its nominations. So I wanted to first talk about this Best Picture lineup and what films we think will be making it in. So I kind of want to go around the horn just quickly and get everyone's take. First off, just flat out what you think is in the pole position to win Best Picture. So what do you say, Erik?
Roma.
Okay. And Andrew?
I agree completely. Roma. I have a hard time even deciding what the runner-up is.
Interesting.
Oh, God.
And Rob?
I'm a Roma skeptic, so I'm not there yet, okay? But I think, actually, I'm thinking at the moment A Star is Born.
Okay. Okay. And Ryan?
I've been holding strong to something for a long time, and while I think Roma has moved from the skepticism of where I had it at like 5, and I moved it up to number 2, I still somewhat believe that Black Klansman is going to be our Best Picture winner.
Excellent. And Matt?
I, too, for a long time, have believed that Black Klansman was going to probably be our Best Picture winner. And I am still holding on to that, provided if, Roma does not keep on winning more awards. But if it does, like it has been, then I think I might have to finally concede. But I mean, for all the skepticism as to why Roma won't win, it has nothing to do with the film itself. It just goes back to what you said when we opened up here, of all the years of Oscar history, and a foreign language film has never won Best Picture.
Right, exactly. And that is going to be the big test for Roma. In addition to the foreign language aspect, it's in black and white. Black and white films have, of course, won Best Picture before, but it's slightly unusual in 2019 for this to be happening. And we also have the Netflix factor. So there's a lot of factors here that would seemingly be in its way, but I know they hired a publicist, Lisa Tabak, I believe, to kind of do the campaigning for them. And it has really genuinely worked extremely well. They've poured a lot of money into it. But do we think this could just be a critics thing? I'll just open that up to anyone.
I want to just say just really quick because it does go back to something that I've been feeling a little bit. I'm getting like Social Network Boyhood vibes where early on with the Globes and the Critics' Choice and the Critics Awards groups, I was so confident that those two films were going to be the Best Picture winner. And that's what I feel like the season is trying to tell me about Roma right now. And I've been burned before, and I just don't want to get my hopes up so soon. I want to see what PGA does. I want to see what DGA does. I want to see what the BAFTAs do. I want to get the full picture before I fully commit to Roma.
And that's the key, right? Because my skepticism is exactly what you just said, Matt. The issue is that, to borrow Anne Thompson's term, will the stake eaters, because even though the Academy has changed its dynamic quite a bit over the last, say, 3 or 4 years, there's still a massive chunk of the Academy who are going to vote on this prize, and it's a preferential ballot. And I can't see how a critical darling, a black and white foreign critical darling like Roma, can pull this off when you have other crowd-pleasing films like A Star Is Born, Black Klansman, and maybe possibly, God help me, Bohemian Rhapsody. So I just think that, yeah, I know, I didn't mean to curse.
God bless you.
Yeah, thank you. But because of that, I'm finding it very difficult to land on Roma. And obviously, we do need to wait for DGA, PGA, BAFTA. But at this point in the race, A Star Is Born has done very well with the Guilds, as we all know, apart from VFX, which was obvious. So I'm thinking that, I'm just so skeptical about that until I can see DGA, PGA, BAFTA going along for the Roma ride. I can't see it happening.
Well, I'd be pretty surprised if Cuarón didn't get DGA. That feels like a pretty easy get. And what we saw last year was a really, really split race between 3 Billboards and Shape. They each kept taking really crucial and important things. So I don't even know if once we have those answers, unless it's a full run, if we're going to be clearer. It doesn't seem like it will be unless it's all Roma, because it's not going to be all A Star Is Born, and it's not going to be all Black Klansman. The higher chance of realistic possibility would be all Roma, and then the others splitting.
I mean, you have to ask yourself this question, and this is something that I've been constantly asking myself now for months on end, is how many people hate Roma? How many people hate A Star Is Born? How many people hate Black Klansman? And I say this because if they all do get Best Picture nominations, where are they going to rank on that ballot? And I have a very, very, very hard time seeing people ranking Roma low on the ballot. I just have a very hard time. And maybe, once again, maybe this isn't just a critics thing. Maybe I spend too much time on film Twitter and I see everybody gushing over it. But the perception to me is that there's not a single person out there who hates this movie. And if they think it's a little slow, little unengaging at first, I get that. But I haven't heard anyone say that they absolutely despise it.
Yeah, but it would be all the number 2s and 3s, which something like A Star Is Born or Black Klansman could get, that would be able to hurdle right over Roma.
I will say this, Roma winning Best Picture would be like up there with Moonlight for me as like one of the illest, dopest, coolest Best Picture wins of all time. And maybe that's another reason why I'm so hesitant to predict it. Cause Eric, during the Moonlight La La Land year, you were such a huge proponent for Moonlight. Did you, I can't remember this, but did you really think it was going to upset that evening? I can't remember.
I did within the right after it won Spirit. This is my greatest regret, like of my entire Oscar watching career, is that I wrote this really long piece called "Moonlight is going to win Best Picture," and I didn't quite finish editing it exactly how I wanted to, so I didn't publish it. So it's sitting in my Google. It's in my Google Drive with the date and time still on it from the last time that it was open, and I just want to kill myself because I flipped over. So just on Twitter, I was like, yes, I do think that it will.
So maybe we should all be just listening to you about Roma then.
No, there's plenty of things about Roma that are going to get in its way. It's great that it's still in the theater. That's a pretty amazing thing for Netflix, but they're still super cagey about things like box office, unless it's, weird things like Bird Box and how that played at home. But I think the PGA will be actually its most difficult thing to get.
Yeah.
Because the PGA wants either success or an indie that can, prove that it's got legs and it's got something. And I think Netflix has missed an opportunity to exploit at least high, per screen averages and stuff like that. But it's also not in the same kind of release situation that a normal studio could be, even a tiny film.
And I think you guys have to realize that, Matt, you were mentioning indie spirits. Indie spirits aren't going to play a factor into this year because they don't really have any of the big players. I mean, we were kind of thinking maybe it would be Barry and If Bill Street Could Talk. And I just don't think that, as much as I love that film, I don't think it's going to be a big player towards the end of the year. And so I think we have 3 films: BlacKkKlansman, A Star Is Born, and Roma. And BlacKkKlansman has Spike, and Spike can be very all over the place, but he's been very tame and he's been very on point, and the message has been clear about that film. I'm not a huge fan of A Star Is Born, and I think I've talked to Eric about this, I've talked to Kevin about this, talked to Matt about this. I'm not a big fan of it. We all know I'm the one guy that it's just
it has detractors for sure.
It has detractors, and Matt, I was on your show and I talked about this. I said, where's the path for this thing to win? Beyond PGA, it's not winning BAFTA, it's not going to win SAG, it's not going to win WGA, it's not going to win DGA. So it needs PGA. It's surviving by PGA alone. And you can say the same thing for BlacKkKlansman as well. One of those two needs to win PGA. Now, if Roma upsets at PGA, then we're going to be talking about almost a close lock, in my opinion.
I agree.
And
I think so too.
We're going to have a done deal. And that's going to be interesting. But you mentioned this, Kevin. There is this stupid film out there that people I've been reading about from Academy members and up and down, and no, it's not Vice, because everybody's been talking about Vice and that's been all over the map as well. This Bohemian Rhapsody thing is not going away. And we need to talk about this thing. This is this momentum fire thing. And I know that this is scary as hell for all you people out there, but cling to your pearls at the idea that we could be seeing the members of Queen at the end of that night, which is going to be a hostless Oscars, and it's going to be a massive, 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 terrible job by the Academy.
But
somebody's getting fired, and if Bohemian Rhapsody wins, we're going to be burning down the gates of the Academy. That new museum is going to be burned to the ground. Okay.
I don't know. You know how bad we sound very elitist when we say this. I totally.
It's not elitist. That's not elitist.
Whenever I say things about Bohemian Rhapsody, I get abused by people on various comment areas, depending on where I am on the internet, because people really freaking love this film for whatever reason and think it's a masterpiece. And a lot of those idiot voters might just agree, and that's terrifying.
It is.
I feel so vindicated right now because one of my staff writers wrote a piece after the Golden Globes, and the headline was, "Can Bohemian Rhapsody win Best Picture?" And my poor friend Liam got attacked for like a clickbait headline. And what I kind of came to understand through all the comments about it was, it's not so much the question, because that was what I thought we needed to talk about. Ryan, it's true. It won the Golden Globe. It is a winner. It's not an also ran film. Like, it is something that needs to be considered. And what I've just realized is nobody wants to consider it. Like, nobody wants us to even breathe life into the idea that it could even possibly get there. And that's what people were getting upset about. I mean, do they need to be taking to Elsie Fisher's Twitter and dragging her through the mud if she happens to like the film? No. I mean, are we all in agreement here, like all of us, that we all would like to see something else win Best Picture? Sure. But I think the way that people are taking this season with this film winning and other scenarios that could possibly happen, I don't know. It's been a huge turnoff for me, just seeing how vicious people can get over the Oscar race.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely one of the people that called that title clickbait. So I don't talk about me like I'm not here, Matt.
I wasn't mentioning you by name,
but
people.
But yes, no, I completely understood it because it was both things. It was both the conversation that needed to happen because of the Golden Globe win, but it was also clickbait because it's the kind of thing that's going to rile people up and be like, "Oh my God, what in the world is this? I hate this article," or it's going to be like, totally, it deserves it. Yay, vindication, validation.
Exactly.
So my approach to this, regardless of how I feel about the movie, is going an extra mile to try and separate my thoughts about it versus what I'm seeing happen, and being realistic. It's also totally killing the guilds. It got a VES nomination.
Yeah.
An unworthy one, but it got one because the crowd scene is
it's awful.
It's terrible. It's just like regardless of how you feel about the movie or even that scene. But that's the thing, is that the audience that loves the movie doesn't care about that. They are so swept up in the music in the moment that they don't mind it. I've talked to a bunch of people that are at the average Academy age and at great detail about the movie, and they have said the same thing. They will acknowledge that, no, it's not a very good movie, but I really loved it, and it made me feel really good.
And go put a record on.
And it's totally true. And and that's usually my response. I'm like, I'll just watch the real one on YouTube and listen to
watch Live Aid. Exactly.
Yeah. And this happened with The Greatest Showman last year too.
Mm-hmm.
But because it was a little bit later, it wasn't able to catch as much steam, I don't think. What Bohemian Rhapsody did was get a perfect release date, which was changed, and have enough time to be ahead of the curve of critics awards and all that kind of stuff. So the love for the movie was already there before any of that started. So then it became very much a critics versus audience fight, and that's been part of the narrative this season too, which is unfortunate.
It's also fighting its controversies. I mean, you talk about, hang on, because in the same week where Green Book gets murdered, I mean, Green Book got absolutely slammed this week, and it deserved it because of everything that's been going on with that film. But, and I hate saying this, they have an accredited rapist as the director of this film, and they're
Bohemian
getting
Rhapsody,
away with.
We should clarify.
Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody, not Peter Farrelly. No, I mean Peter Farrelly's got his own stuff this week too.
Yes. But just trying to keep track of all the scandals.
Yes, but because it's a plenty right now.
Yeah.
But
it was Oscar voting week.
Yes.
Yeah. What can you expect?
But I will say this about it, is that it has done a miraculous job at not having to talk about any of it. I mean, I've watched interviews with Rami Malek. I've watched interviews with the cast leading up to SAG. I've seen interviews with the producers. The night of the Golden Globes, they were asked about it, and they said, well, this isn't the right time. And I was, of course, mad as hell. And I'm like, well, when is the right time to talk about this stuff? Before or after you're holding an Oscar in your hand? Yeah. But the thing about it is they've done a good job at slowly campaigning for this underground, not having to talk about the controversies, putting out the director, I forgot his name, that's going to be directing Rocket Man. That's
Dexter Fletcher.
Yeah, Dexter Fletcher. And saying that, no, it was really him that did everything. And don't just think about Rami. Just think about those moments. And they've done a good job of keeping that together and keeping that afloat. And so all you have to do is survive controversy in this game. You guys know that. To play the game, you have to, keep the word of mouth positive and move it along. And that's why it's probably in my 4 spot right now. I mean, and that's really sickening to say.
Well, actually, I'm going to say something that's a little bit more sickening than that. And it's something that, Ryan, I give you so much credit, but I think you're underestimating this pathway. I think the number 4 film is Green Book. And I say this because that's another movie that, talking to voters, talking to people who have seen the movie that aren't in our circles, that movie is one of those movies where, despite all the controversies and all the points that you bring up about it, that's another one, like Bohemian Rhapsody. It just makes them feel good, and they love the movie, and they won't hear any of these criticisms that are brought up. And it won 3 Golden Globes, including Best Picture. It won that damn screenplay award, which still riles me up to this day. It could easily win the WGA with The Favorite not being there. It could also win the PGA. I think we're very much underestimating a world where Green Book suddenly emerges as a real potential threat. Like, a lot of people, like, once again, we want to believe that its winning days are over with the Golden Globe. But Mahershala Ali has a path. The screenplay has a path. You have an acting, you have a screenplay victory. Boom. There's the recipe for a Best Picture win right there, possibly.
Can I make further points? So before Shape of Water won last year, all I ever heard ad nauseum was the SAG ensemble rule is very important, and we have to be mindful of it. And then last year that changed everything, and maybe that was a blip, or maybe that's just a new world order. But why do we think that it's not going to be Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, Crazy Rich Asians, or A Star Is Born that will win Best Picture, because they're the only nominees?
Ryan and I think it is going to be Black Klansman.
Yeah, we did say it was going to be Black Klansman.
That makes sense to me. And that's why I think A Star Is Born is actually stronger than many people might want to appreciate at this stage of the race.
We also have to remember something, too, about the SAG Ensemble Award. Both last year and I think this year, SAG Ensemble is a very competitive category every single year. And I could name 5 other ensembles that did not get nominated this year for SAG Ensemble, and it would be a perfectly acceptable SAG Ensemble lineup.
Yeah,
I just think that maybe Shape of Water last year, votes were just put elsewhere. And I'm not saying that everyone votes like that, but clearly it wasn't a factor. And I don't think it has to be a factor this year either. I don't know. I mean, we need more data, right? We need more years to see if it was just an anomaly or if it's now a new trend.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So there's a lot of feelings in the race this year, as you can clearly hear. Lots of passionate feelings one way or the other. And I do wonder if things like the Bohemian Rhapsody controversies, the Green Book controversies, how people feel about them so negatively can in fact cause the backlash to the backlash, and people dig their heels in more, be like, oh, well, if you're going to act like this, well, I'm definitely voting for it. You know, that sort of thing.
It's tough because the last 2 years, I feel like we saw it happened where backlash produced a different winner than we were expecting. And this is the year where, I definitely do feel like people are saying, no, I'm tired of this shit. Stop with your, hashtag film Twitter wokeness. I like this movie and I'm voting for it. Damn it. And that's what I feel like I'm feeling this year. And Globes just pummeled us over the face with that 1-2 punch of Green Book and Bohemian, that it's like, how can you not read into it that way, that that's what's happening?
Matt, you invoked the woke. I can't believe it.
It's the Trump factor. It's his fault.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm just calling it as I see it.
Yeah, it's messy as hell. For me, I look at A Star Is Born and Black Klansman and I'm like, they need to start winning things because they're running out of time. Like, I know the industry is still kind of going to have its say, and I wonder if we could just see a turn, like with how Birdman kind of suddenly started winning everything. Like,
well, to be clear, we haven't had any industry stuff yet.
Exactly.
Yeah,
We've only had the Globes and the critics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're going off all of our
phase one, really.
We're going off phase one. We got to get into that Marvel phase 2, basically.
At the same time, there's no reason that Critics' Choice, who is who they are,
say it,
needed to choose Roma. They've never chosen a foreign language film either.
Correct.
True.
So they could have gone A Star Is Born. They could have gone Green Book. They could have gone Bohemian Rhapsody, and it would have totally fell in line with how they kind of do things.
I mean, ask yourself this question: last year, does anyone remember what led in critics' wins for Best Picture? It was Get Out.
Yeah, it was Get Out.
Yeah, it was kind of all
which
over
is
the
why
place,
I
but
predicted Get Out all the way to the last moment.
Yeah.
And
it
I
was
have
a good
to say, like, Critics' Choice last year proved to be a turning point when The Shape of Water won Best Picture. Because that wasn't a film that was leading critics groups wins for Best Picture.
No, but it didn't have a 49 on Metacritic either.
No. But I guess what I'm getting at there is Critics' Choice. I'll say it. They like to predict the Oscars, and whatever the tide is at right now, wherever the momentum is swinging at this current point, they think right now Roma is going to win Best Picture, or obviously Roma is leading with a huge lead in critics wins for Best Picture right now, that maybe all the critics all just think Roma's the best film. It's tough to say because it could be both.
Yeah.
Really hard to say. Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah. And I love and hate this year because it really does feel like the most unpredictable race this decade, really, even more so than last year. So
yeah, but
there's something to that.
There's something, but it's coming from outside influences and outside things in a way that it hasn't before. And even inside the circles of this section of the industry, there is extremely aggressive infighting. And it's not simply disagreement, and it isn't even simply I like this movie versus you like this movie. It's a real clash of ethics and ideas of how they think that the Oscar race should transpire. This last couple of weeks has been a shit show for me in regard to what happened with Green Book. So I'm not distressed, but I'm disappointed with that part of the discourse, which is essentially really outside of the race entirely. But now it's a part of the race.
It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to watch this race in general because of all the controversies that we've been marred in for such a long time. It feels like we've just been stuck in controversy after controversy, and we haven't been able to talk about any films that we enjoyed. We haven't been able to do, even between La La Land and Moonlight, which, look, I wasn't a big fan of La La Land, and I was a big proponent of Moonlight, and I love that film, and I'm glad it won Best Picture. But I know a lot of people found enjoyment out of that. And I think you guys are kind of hitting it right on the head, where we're in a moment right now where we have an Academy in shambles that are doing unethical things that make us all kind of question, or at least making me question, why am I covering this race when everyone's so vile? The films are maybe a representation of the voters' fight back. Feels very much an essence of the 2016 election, where you have these films from Moonlight and Shape of Water represented by two people that and filmmakers that you would never thought would win Best Picture, and Barry Jenkins and Guillermo del Toro, two people, giants within the industry now of representation and making films that are different and unique and special and inclusion and everything that you can wrap that with, and values that we can all admire. And now we have films that don't represent that. And I think we're all scared of that because over the last 2 years, whether you liked them or not, they've been pretty good winners, to say the least. And we've fought for our values in terms of what I think would be a Best Picture winner. And instead, this year, we fought 2 years to get the films that we liked and whatnot. And now we're sitting here going, all those 2 years could go down the drain, it feels like. And then we're not having a host, the whole host scandal and how disparaging that all is. Then you read this stuff with SAG. It has not been a good year. And Eric's right. It's been a shitstorm. And we're just taking it on and on and on and on. And we can hope that, guys, like I said, I'm not a fan of Star is Born. Right now, I would take A Star is Born for Best Picture in a fucking heartbeat. If I didn't have to have those two other films win, I would. And I would take Roma. I obviously, Black Klansman and Spike and what he did with that film, I think that is a great answer to who he calls Agent Orange. And I think also Beale Street would be a great representation of that. I even think The Favorite would be a great representation of that. And because that's such a batshit crazy movie,
it's just be
from
badass.
Year Ghost. And but I am worried, and I think we have to be worried. And
I'm not worried, and I'm not. I'm not though. I can't even get upset about it. I'm older than all of you kids, so
thanks, Dad.
And not to pull that card too much, but I'm gonna do it because I've been watching this and covering this for a really long time, and that was a little bit of an SS moment there. So I'm completely comfortable and familiar with the pendulum swings that the Academy takes all the time. And it happens all the time, regardless of the makeup, where they kind of, they make a play like Crash, and it's super controversial, but they feel like they're doing the right thing. And then we swing back again to extremely critically praised, more actually socially conscious stuff. And we kind of just through the decades have made these swings over and over again. So if we're making another swing, I get it, I understand it. It's not totally out of the ordinary for this group. The only thing that's a little bit strange about it is that we're talking about it in an era of such extra inclusion with this Academy. We have 1,400 new members that are much more in the international female LGBT section of the industry that hasn't had a voice in this group. So it's weird to think that, we're looking at these two movies that don't seem like they have a place in 2019, but seem more like, 1989.
That's totally fair. I mean, Eric, it's interesting because you bring that up, and I agree with it. For me, it's like I take solace in not the wins at the Oscars. The wins to me, like I might get mad for a brief second if something won over either my prediction or what I really wanted to win. But I get over that very quickly. I get over that because I believe that if you did get nominated, you deserve to win. I don't care if, what it is, but if you got nominated, you're there for a reason. To me, the nominations is what matters. The nominations are everything. And that to me is the thing that keeps me up at night, more so than even the wins themselves. And I like to also look back on wins. I look back on that Crash win, and I like to look at it as a lesson. I like to look at it and say to myself, what did we learn from that? What was, and also makes things, kind of fascinating too, in terms of the history and how we have these peaks and these valleys and these ups and downs throughout this crazy, wacky time in our lives called award season. If it was just our favorites winning all the time, it would be a little boring. And I think a bit of the excitement and the rush and the adrenaline that we get when our favorites do win would dissipate.
That's always the great irony, though, of pundits and critics during award season is that they complain when it's the same things over and over again, and then they get upset when it's something totally left of center. So it's like just it's a ride. Just enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride.
And you're not actually part of the ride. We're not a part of the ride. We're not the people nominated. We're not the people that are going to the shows. So we're
on the ground waving at the people on the ride.
Yeah, it's really important. It's really important to have some separation from that,
right?
And what it must feel like to be, a person like Laurie Metcalf or Willem Dafoe that goes to every single show and loses.
Yeah.
While we're over here complaining, loudly because they can't. They're not going to complain loudly. We're sort of doing that in their place or whatever, however you want to describe it. So it's just super important to understand and to really kind of know where you are in all of this.
That's very well said. And I'm glad you bring up Willem Dafoe and Laurie Metcalf, because I did want to quickly transition into the acting races so we can move things along. So I want to get to Best Actress, which is always the most heated, emotional thing for people on our corner of the internet. So
I can't imagine why.
Yeah. So the Glenn Close. I want to go to Andrew Carden here because as I awkwardly put it on one of his podcasts, he is a fan of older actresses. So, so I just want to get your take really on this race and how things are shaping up.
Well, I mean, I absolutely adore Glenn Close, and I would, of course, vote for her. With that said, I did not think she'd win the Golden Globe. I don't think really anybody did, and I didn't have
her.
Yeah, and I didn't have her predicted at Critics' Choice either. So, in my estimation, she's really quite overperforming thus far, and I suspect she's fairly well positioned at SAG as well. I think she's actually much better positioned there than she was with the Hollywood Foreign Press or the Critics' Choice folks. With that said, I mean, she's hardly a shoo-in by any stretch. But gosh, I have a hard time seeing Lady Gaga prevail with the Academy if she didn't first with the Hollywood Foreign Press, which is such a Lady Gaga friendly organization. And of course, Olivia Colman will win at BAFTA, but that's completely expected. Now, if Colman is to win at SAG, that of course changes everything. Ditto Lady Gaga over there. But I suspect, the likely path from here is Glenn Close prevails at SAG, Olivia Colman prevails at BAFTA, and then it's Glenn at the Oscars. But it's hardly set in stone. I mean, Glenn's just performing far better than I anticipated. I really thought that SAG would be her lone precursor heading into Oscar night.
I got to ask a quick question, Andrew. What if Coleman loses BAFTA and Gaga wins at BAFTA? What then?
My Lord.
Well, that would be amazing. I mean, that would, of course, virtually end Olivia Colman's hopes for Oscar night. And that would certainly indicate, a last-minute surge for Gaga, which I don't think is necessarily impossible. I don't see Glenn Close winning at BAFTA. I feel like if Jonathan Pryce didn't get nominated there, which was a real possibility, then she's probably not in there. But I mean, I wouldn't count Gaga out entirely. I think that the Critics' Choice speech really, won folks over a lot. But I think, as we saw on Golderby today with an article, I think that there's going to be a narrative moving forward that you can award both Glenn and Gaga on the big night through two different categories.
Yeah,
and,
which is what the Globes did.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that ultimately that's the likeliest scenario. And in terms of Olivia Colman, I keep comparing her to Brenda Blethyn's run for Secrets and Lies back in the day, where the critics adored her. She won the Golden Globe. She went on to win the BAFTA, but she lost at SAG, and that was really a fatal loss. And I think that that's ultimately going to be what Olivia Colman faces from here on out. So I wouldn't entirely count her out, but I think Glenn is in better shape than I thought she'd be, honestly.
Yeah. I think she's actually going to win BAFTA.
Oh, wow.
I think she's going to be Coleman, personally.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember you saying this on Twitter, something to the effect of like she could just sweep the whole race.
I don't see why she would not just pull the Julianne Moore on this. And one of the reasons is the Critics' Choice speech was indeed fantastic, and especially staying on there and being with her with Gaga, and I still love that Gaga's mother and Glenn Close are B&E buddies. It's crazy, their relationship. But it was the Golden Globe speech that for me just absolutely secured it for her for the rest of this race, because she's playing this game, this campaign in a way that is so incredibly thoughtful and shrewd at the same time. It's not thirsty the way that like Kate Winslet and Eddie Redmayne did it. But Close is at everything. She's hanging out with every person. She just joined Instagram. She's playing the game, but she's doing it in a way that is, I know I'm Glenn Close, and I know that I've never won and been nominated 800 times, but I don't need to tell you that. Let me just tell you why this character is great. Let me tell you what it represents. And that speech at the Globes was everything. Yeah. It was everything that has been the last couple of years of Me Too. Her character represents that as well, which is why for so many of us, she was the front runner for so long. Sony, despite releasing it in August, which was a risky move, has killed this game. You should just always watch out for a Sony Pictures Classics Best Actress contender, period. Just don't ever like discount it. And I think she's doing an absolutely perfect job, because Gaga, I love Gaga, and I think she's great in Star Wars Born, and I love her and the movie. She's going the Kate Winslet, Eddie Redmayne route, which is super high fashion, really loud, and lots of tears.
She's also Glenn Close. She's also going to win Indie Spirit the night before. And I think it just further illustrates, Eric, to your point, that she's here, I think, to sweep the season. I know a lot of people predicted Gaga to win the Golden Globe. I know a lot of people predicted Olivia Colman to win Critics' Choice over Close. If she has now won both of those, you know what? You just convinced me. I don't see why she can't also win SAG and BAFTA and Indie Spirit and just have this huge walk of appreciation and love. And Glenn, it's finally your time. Enjoy it, you know?
It's literally the same thing that Julianne Moore did, like to letter. So,
and the only nomination for her film, probably.
Yeah, I want to hear from Rob, because I know he has to go soon, and he's talking.
I agree that Glenn Close is going to win it all. Although the SAG interests me, because that can be very populist sometimes, and I think Gaga does stand a chance there. I loved how they both won at Critics' Choice, because it just makes our jobs even harder. What I think is actually more important for my own personal benefit is to hear what you all think about the number 5 slot, because I know you tweeted it lately. I know you all know that I'm obsessed with Toni Collette being nominated for Hereditary, and if it doesn't happen, I will probably have to go and cut someone. But
I'll be right there with you.
Great. I think it should. I'm actually really shocked and appalled that she hasn't had more traction, because I know the film's divisive. I know it's a horror film and it's very hard to watch for a lot of people. But her performance, you can't deny that her performance is revelatory for an actress that we already know is amazing. So I think I'm going to hold out hope for her for number 5 slot, because we all think that Melissa McCarthy will be in the number 4 slot. But I'm really interested to know what you all think about the number 5 slot, because are we thinking it's Yalitza? Are we thinking it's someone else out of left field? Like, it's fascinating.
I would say right now that, well, one, I would love if it was the BAFTA choice. I would love if it was Viola Davis, because Widows is my favorite film of the year.
Nice.
But I don't see that happening, because that film has just died, and that's very sad. I would have said a couple of weeks ago that it was Emily Blunt, because I assume we all think that it's Gaga, Close, Coleman, and then McCarthy, right? And then the 5th spot is wide open. Yes,
Yep.
we all agree on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what we're assuming. And I always thought it was going to be Emily Blunt, but then, like, you know, as we've all seen, Mary Poppins Returns has kind of started to fade away from this race, and Roma has become such a big player. But Yalitza, she's got that Globe nomination. She's got Critics' Choice
nomination.
Yeah, but not. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. But I'd love to see her in there. It's really tough, but if I had an edge right now, I would actually keep it with Emily Blunt, because she had both those performances this year, and I don't see her really getting into supporting actress, even though I don't see that as a supporting actress nomination. For A Quiet Place, I see her squeezing in, and that being like the big victory for Mary Poppins Returns, because I think she is really good in the performance too. Like, she brings her own sense of character to a timeless character. I mean, Julie Andrews, of course, won the Oscar, and it's one of the most memorable performances of all time for any musical, for any film. And Emily Blunt brought her own thing, and it made that movie so charming, because it is so charming. And Rob Marshall's films do well at the Oscars, and I mean, even Meryl Streep got in there for an Oscar nomination for Into the Woods. And I know that she's Meryl, but you know, Nine did a good job, and of course Chicago's a Best Picture winner, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's Emily.
I think Emily takes votes away from herself and lead with the A Quiet Place potential nomination as well. I think there are people who are going to say, I want to get Emily in somewhere. And their vote may go there instead of kind of getting behind one central performance, which is why I have her missing. And for me, it's between Toni Collette and Yalitza Aparicio. Both of them have Critics' Choice nominations. I would love if it was Rosamund Pike for A Private War, which is a performance I think is equal with what she gave us in Gone Girl, but that distributor has done absolutely nothing with that movie, and I just can't see it happening at this point. Destroyer is too divisive for Kidman. My brain says it's going to be Yalitza because that feels like the fifth slot, Charlotte Rampling, or kind of a nomination that the highbrowness of the Academy just like goes for that kind of performance. And Roma's also a Best Picture frontrunner. It stands to reason that an acting nomination could come along with it, and she's also been killing the circuit this year. And that's what my brain says, but God damn it, my heart is going to say Toni Collette because I will just go with this ship all the way to the bitter end.
I suppose we do have to keep in mind with Toni Collette, she did make the cut for The Sixth Sense with virtually no precursor support whatsoever.
Yeah.
Of course, she was in a Best Picture nominee, but, she is beloved. She is an actor's actor. So I wouldn't entirely counter out, but I do agree it probably is going to be Aparicio for the fifth slot. I don't think folks will be able to decide which performance to honor Blunt for. I think both she and Nicole Kidman, who conceivably could have been double nominees, are going to end up completely shut out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm keeping Yalitza Aparicio as my number 5, and I mean the lack of BAFTA love for Mary Poppins definitely sealed it for me.
There's no reason why she should have missed that. No
Thanks,
reason.
guys. Now I feel bad for picking her. I'm just going to change everything right now. And
but Ryan, your mention of Viola Davis and that totally surprise nomination that she got at BAFTA is something to really pay attention to and think about. Very early in the season, I was deep in for Widows to be able to get a lot, and obviously including Davis, and obviously we know at this point that it's not the player either box office or awards wise, other than some ensemble wins and things. But this is an opportunity to see if Viola Davis is a Meryl Streep, Denzel Washington level. We're going to nominate her pretty much all the time now. Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't be a even like a Music of the Heart nomination, because Widows is a huge critical success as well. Yeah. It just didn't do very well at the box office. So I think it's absolutely possible. So I have bumped her up quite a bit as a result. But no, I'm sticking with Yalitza, although it drives me crazy that critics have been able to give Roma as many Best Picture wins as they have and not brought along Yalitza with those wins. Because like Cuarón is saying every single time he's on stage, and talk about a smart campaigner, he's mentioning her and Marina de Tavira every single time and saying Yalitza is the movie. These women are the movie. And he's reminding the people that they have not been nominated yet, and that's what they need to do.
Yeah, I mean,
killing it.
I think, Eric, the Viola Davis nomination could be like another Gillian Flynn film. Could be like Rosamund Pike in Gone Girl, where that was the lone nomination really for that film in the big major categories. And we all love that performance. And I think what's great about Davis's performance in that film is it's really her first big lead, where somebody gave her the focus point. She is the main character. And I know that we could split hairs on Fences, but I mean, that's really a co-lead. And it's much Denzel's film as it is hers. Even though I think she's better in the film, obviously, because she won the Oscar and she was fantastic in that performance. And I'd love to see her get nominated. But I think Yalitza would be kind of like the Emmanuel Riva in Amor nomination, right? Where Hanukkah and the film gets nominated and then Riva gets in. And of course, Riva had some precursors but I would love to see her get nominated because she's the reason why your eyes are on the screen as much as the visuals in Cuarón's direction. Her performance is a knockout performance for a lady that was going to be a school teacher, and she had some time to kill, and she made this fantastic film from a visionary mind. And you cannot count out the three amigos. They are the masters at building an Oscar campaign, whether it's Del Toro, whether it's Iñárritu, or whether it's now Cuarón. These guys, they've got the secret sauce, and we all need to go over to their house and figure it out. Maybe we can all win an Oscar.
She didn't even go to audition. She took her sister. It's such a crazy, wonderful story. Yeah, but yeah. I want to mention too that it can't go without saying that without a Viola Davis or a Yalitza Aparicio, this is an acting category that would go without a person of color.
Yep.
If that was to happen. Mm-hmm. So I don't really think we're going to see that again because we have such a broader base of films that are being recognized. And again, because the Academy base is so much bigger and international and not exclusively white. It's still obviously hugely and largely. You can't ever, at the same time that you're saying that the membership is growing, not acknowledge that it is still predominantly white. But I do think we are in a different era.
Yeah. For me, I am also going with Aparicio because not only just the fact that she is the heart and soul of Roma, which is supposed to be this top 3 contending Best Picture, but just literally watching it from my own experience. Like, I can't divorce myself from the performance itself being so great as to part of why the film works so well. And so I feel like with a more international Academy, with a maybe younger Academy, more diverse, they can appreciate a performance like that. And who knows, maybe we're getting to a point now where the Academy is going to start to make its own choices that they feel is right and kind of forego what Golden Globes and SAG and everyone else is saying, honestly. So,
well, they didn't last year, but yeah.
I know. But the hope is that with the added members, it could eventually get to that point.
I have to say, I've been to about a dozen different events where Yalitza Aparicio is.
Humble brag.
And no, I mean, yeah, okay, yes. And with Cuarón there too, and everybody wants to talk to her. Everybody wants to talk to her. She has a crowd around her, and she has to do all of her conversations in twice the amount of time because they're being told through a translator, and she is there for everybody.
Wow. Yeah, so we'll see. I'm really hoping for it. Rob, do you have to go soon, or?
Yeah, I do have to go. So I'll just give you a final thought. And then,
yeah, for sure.
Then I'll listen to what you will have to say once you've posted this podcast. But I have 2 thoughts. Generally speaking, I think I'm looking forward to seeing a first man overperformance below the line. Even though I didn't love the film, I expect it to do better than a lot of people think it will. And the other thing that I'm curious about, it's a huge long shot, but if Cold War is going to possibly make it into director, cinematography, and most likely foreign language film, could it maybe make it into a 10 Best Picture lineup? I think it's actually possible. And I'm thinking that if that happens, that would be really interesting and something that I would really welcome. Other than that, I'm also looking at how Black Panther's going to do, because I loved that film. I know it's not very cool these days at the moment to be saying how much you love the film. I fucking love that movie so much. I've seen it 5 times. And if it gets 10 nominations like Gold Derby is saying it will, then I will be thrilled. And apart from that, we'll see what happens. And thank you so much for letting me join your lovely podcast. It was great to meet you all. And maybe we'll touch base in a few weeks once we actually know what's going on.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob.
Thants, Rob.
Appreciate it.
Great talking with you.
You too. Bye.
So this should provide a good transition point to talk about the other big Best Actor race, which is kind of up in the air, I would say, still.
Yeah.
Because we've got, at first we thought, okay, Bradley Cooper's got this.
This award season, and I know I sound like a kind of like a negative Nancy, and Eric's had to put me in timeout for a little bit. But I will say that I feel absolutely terrible and feel bad for Bradley Cooper because he hasn't really had a moment to fully shine. Like Gaga's gotten, of course, Critics' Choice, and she's gotten Globes, and she's had her moments to shine. But that's his baby, and he's not going to get up there for director. He's not going to get up there for screenplay. He's not going to get in there, for any of the songs. But so actor's his best shot. That's what we all said throughout this entire time. And then Rami Malek has just come in here, lip singing his way all the way to this Oscar nomination, and and when Bradley Cooper plays guitar and sings his songs and does the best performance, I think, of his career, and
directs the movie
and writes the movie, produces the movie, and goes through hell to make it and everything. And while I'm not warm on the film, it's a damn achievement and it's a great accomplishment for him. And Christian Bale, he's already got an Oscar for supporting actor. For The Fighter, I know he's a big, nominee before, and he's a big player in this race, and I get that, and I know that he did a fine job as Dick Cheney. But a guy in a fat suit won it last year, and just because you gained 40 pounds, I don't think that means you're winning the Oscar. I still think this is between Malek and Cooper. My heart has Cooper winning it, but my head says Malek's going to take this, and those buck teeth are going to get all the way up there and steal that Oscar.
Oh man. I know, like, Eric is probably like, this is probably like this. I'm guessing this is probably like your least favorite category because it's come down to Bale, Malek at this point. I'm guessing, right?
That's unquestionable.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel bad because I'm one of those people who really does like Vice, and I thought Christian Bale's performance was extraordinary and one of the best of his career. I still have a weird feeling about him winning for this because it's not the kind of win or role that I can grab my friend Eric, wrap my arm around him and go, yeah, buddy, Christian Bale. Because I know he just has that frown look on his face and I feel awful about it. I want us to be happy if Christian Bale wins a lead actor Oscar. I think he's respected and beloved by actors, especially, and just very much admired, that it makes sense that they would be showering him with accolades. He feels like the kind of person that would have a lead and a supporting. But man, I just wish it was for a movie that we all could really get behind. It really does kind of hurt a little bit. And as a result, I really kind of hope that Cooper can pull something out at the last minute. And I'm not even saying that that's even a performance that we could all maybe get behind, because Ryan, I know you're not the biggest fan of the Star Born.
No, I can get behind the performance. It's a really good performance.
Okay, all right, well, that's fair.
Yeah.
In any event, I just, this has become like a downer of a category in so many ways. Just give it to Ethan Hawke. Everybody else is giving it to Ethan Hawke at this point. Can we just get Ethan Hawke an Oscar?
Poor Ethan Hawke.
A freaking nomination, please.
There's a weird thing in that I would imagine would connect to the pendulum swing thing that I mentioned before, where it seems weird that Gary Oldman would be able to win and then Christian Bale the next year.
Yeah.
It's not even that the performances are similar exactly, but there is a symmetry there that's kind of odd. Although in one sense, Gary Oldman's doing the lip sync version by wearing a fat suit, and Christian Bale is doing the Bradley Cooper version by actually gaining the weight. In a really very loose way of comparing the two. But it's Rami Malek comes with a lot of love for his performance.
Yeah.
He represents even as an American actor, somebody that has Egyptian Orthodox background, so he has a component to it that becomes a first time and a history making element to it, like his Emmy win was, and that isn't you can't deny stuff like that. And I know people say, well, voters don't vote like that. I'm like, well, actually they do. You just don't want them to, but we've already seen evidence of things like that in regular elections, and pretending that this is that much different is a little silly. So I are Rami Malek and Christian Bale two of my least favorite performances of the year? Yes. Are they my two least that are going to be nominated? Yes, but I'm not going to feel like horrible and terrible and like, tear down the walls to, if either wins. But it was really interesting that Bale was able to beat Malik. That was a surprise.
Yeah. Especially considering in his earlier acceptance speech, he thanks Louis Armstrong. He talks about his squeaky shoes and everything else you can possibly imagine. And then he gets up there for the second speech and he's like, bloody hell, I didn't think I was going to do it again.
But I really thought that Cooper was, if Cooper was going to win something, I thought it would actually be that. I didn't think, I
thought Cooper was going to win Globe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could see Matt winning Globe. But because he's won there before and he's a really respected guy, and that is the one thing, Eric, I do agree with you on with Bohemian Rhapsody. We can all agree is that whether the performance is lip sync or what, and the teeth and the makeup and all that stuff with it, Malik has a great story with it in that he not only has his own personal stuff, but he's also playing a character of a man that is very beloved in Freddie Mercury, and people have never seen Freddie Mercury portrayed on film, and they would love to give that performance to someone that is overwhelmingly beloved. And I love Freddie Mercury. My dad has told me stories of times he's seen him and all this stuff, and that Queen music holds a special place in my heart. That's why that movie was such a shot to the heart. And I really wish Cooper would win, but I think after him not winning Critics' Choice, which would have been good for him to get up there on that stage and make a speech, have a presence, right? It's gonna be SAG or bust at this point for him, and I hope he gets up there, but I don't know. I don't know if it will.
I suspect it's probably going to be Malik moving forward. I have a hard time seeing him lose at SAG when the film got that insane Best Ensemble nomination. The support must be overwhelmingly strong. I hate to say it. And then I suspect he'll probably win at BAFTA too.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a ton of appetite to give Christian Bale his second Oscar right now. And again, the film is polarizing. So is Bohemian Rhapsody. But I think that the supporters of Bohemian Rhapsody are much more pumped up than the supporters of Vice are. And then Cooper, I just don't think folks can decide which category to give it to him. I think folks are going to split, and he's going to finish probably the runner-up in both categories.
Yeah.
I have to say that Cooper, because I would have predicted Cooper, or did predict Cooper as the front runner to win, as the best chance, best place to reward him, is that he's losing this himself. He's underplayed so much to let Gaga shine.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely been to his own detriment. And he's done it every step of the way, from its premiere in Venice all the way. He's done it every single show, everything. He's stepped in the background to let her shine in the foreground. And he's suffering now as a result.
He's been a director, not an actor.
And that's how he's been campaigning. I mean, he'll win first time DGA, that's fine. But that's it.
It seems to me that it's going to go home with the same number of Oscars that the Streisand won and Best Original Song and nothing else.
That's where I am at too.
And that's so crazy to be saying that, like, compared to where we were a month ago, really.
Well, the Streisand one swept the Golden Globes. This one way underperformed the Streisand one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people like even a month ago were saying could be Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga winning a pair of matching Oscars, like Jack Nicholson and Helen Hunt.
Instead, they're going to go down just like Judy Garland and James Mason and Janet Gaynor and Frederick Mark. I mean,
yeah.
And I do want to just say too, and not to transition to another category, but to also like lump in Sam Elliott with them for a minute. I still am holding on to this idea that Sam Elliott could win just SAG and only SAG in a Morgan Freeman $1 Million Baby kind of way, and that might be all it takes for him to possibly win supporting actor then.
I don't
see. I was thinking that Sam Elliott could pull sort of an Alan Arkin where he surges at the very last minute and gets across the finish line, but
didn't get
I
BAFTA.
just don't. I think that ultimately Sam Elliott's going to go down more like Burt Reynolds and Boogie Nights and Robert Forster and Jackie Brown as this actor from the 70s who finally gets his comeback nomination, but ultimately doesn't win.
Yeah, this is not a Jack Palance or a what's his face from Affliction, James
Coburn.
Yeah.
This is not one of those situations.
So we're definitely we're resigning to the idea that we're definitely giving Ali 2 in
3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's leading that way. This is a good transition. We could talk about supporting actor now.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Because I was just curious who, because we have Bale, Malik, and Cooper. Who are the other 2 nominees going to be?
Okay. Yeah, we could talk about that.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of variation here, and then looking at like Chris Tapley's preview of what his are going to look like was interesting.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Vigo is seemingly locked. I know some people are saying he could be snubbed.
I have him missing. I have him being the shocking snub.
He could absolutely be the sacrificial lamb of what's happened to this film, because he has his own controversy on top of the other 2 that are in the damn movie.
So Eric, I cannot see a world where Ethan Hawke misses the nomination. I don't care that he hasn't gotten SAG, BAFTA, or Golden Globe. I cannot imagine somebody winning this many critics awards and not getting at least the nomination. I just can't imagine it.
But it didn't even translate to like critics'
choice. It has some fluid nature to it.
Yeah, I think I have John David Washington in for Black Klansman.
Me too. So do I.
And as of right now, I do have Ethan Hawke in for First Reformed, and it'd be like its lone nomination, possibly, because I don't think Paul Schrader's going to get in. I actually think Bo Burnham would have a better shot at getting in than for an original screenplay coming out of A24 than Paul Schrader.
Yep.
And I think the thing about Ethan Hawke, as he's been interviewing like crazy, he's been going around the circuit. He's also had a film he came out and directed this year too, Blaze, which got a lot of love. And he's just a really good guy to talk to. He's a good interviewer. He's very insightful. He doesn't have controversy. He doesn't in a Q&A say the N-word like Vigo. And every time Vigo had a chance to apologize, it felt like he kept sticking his foot in his mouth. And Eric's right. A sacrificial lamb is going to be made to this film. It's not going to be a screenplay. Mahershala is going to probably get that Oscar.
It's going to be fairly in Vigo.
Going to probably get in, and it's going to be Vigo. And
interesting.
And I think it's Hawke and John David. Which like John David Washington had like his dad go to bat for him and Oprah. And, campaigning for him. Like he's in. Like, and it's a deserved Oscar nomination because he's really good in the film too. Like it's not one of those like let's just campaign for him. I think he's really good in Black Klansman, just as good as Adam Driver, who I think is going to get in there as well.
Mm-hmm. I think we also too have to look at the SAG Oscar translation, because they've never gone 2020 ever. And if you're looking at everyone that got in SAG, you have to start looking at who's going to miss, because somebody's going to miss. Somebody's going to hit every single precursor, BAFTA, BFCA, Golden Globe, and SAG, and miss. It's going to happen. It always happens. So if you're looking at who hit SAG in all 4 of these acting categories, you have to start pulling things out and looking at who the Academy choices are going to be instead.
I currently have Chalamet and Vigo being the 2 who made it everywhere this season. I have those 2 as the 2 that will miss, and my gut tells me it won't be both of them, because that would be insane. It will be one of them, but at least I'll be right somewhere.
Chalamet is such a total Afterglow nomination.
I know it is. It's the fact that it's the lone nomination for his film, a film that overall wasn't particularly well received. And I got to give Amazon a lot of credit for campaigning the film rather well, and definitely getting the word out there about it for sure. But I don't know, man. I can get the sense of this Michael B. Jordan getting his first nod. Welcome to the club. And it's in a film and in a role that honestly, like that role would not be as good as it was without his performance selling it.
Andrew, who do you have in the final 2 spots for actor?
For actor, I do have Viggo still in there, but I actually have Willem Dafoe.
Wow.
Odd as it sounds. I mean, speaking of Afterglow nominations, I mean, he's beloved, and I mean, he, just like Laurie Metcalf, seemed to be in amazing shape for the Florida projects, only to kind of skid off the tracks at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my sense is that First Reformed, I mean, I know he swept, but I don't know. I really thought, I actually predicted Ethan Hawke to win a Critics' Choice.
Yeah.
Just because he's so beloved by the critics side. So I was honestly surprised by that.
They gave First Reformed screenplay.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was even more surprising, I felt.
Out of nowhere. So you're like, oh, okay.
This film that wasn't even nominated for WGA when it was eligible just won Screenplay Critics' Choice, and it's like,
yeah.
What do we do?
I mean, I think it's more or less a jump ball among Dafoe, Hawke, and Washington, but I just have this feeling that it's going to be Dafoe potentially.
And if
that's at least top 5.
Yeah. And if that's the case, then too, if Dafoe and Viggo or Hawke get in and John David Washington doesn't get in, that means then that category will have no diversity in it. Besides Malick.
It has Malick in here.
Yeah. But
Malick's a sure thing. There's no way Malick misses.
Sorry.
Malick counts, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. I'm not trying to beat him up. I'm just saying, like,
I keep going back and forth, and I'm gonna do my official final predictions and podcasts in the next couple of days, and I keep switching Ethan Hawke and Viggo Mortensen 5 and 6, 6, 5, 5, 6, and I don't know where I'm gonna land until I hit publish.
Yeah.
Well, I have Viggo still, just because I do think there is going to be enough. There's still maybe enough love for him within the Academy. He's a 2-time past nominee, and the movie has its defenders. He's a big part of the movie. And I also just have John David Washington because of BlacKkKlansman love. Honestly, I know Ethan Hawke has won a lot of critics, and I'm not going to discount that by any means, but I just wonder if the film might be too isolating to a wide Academy. I don't know.
And that's the word, because I was talking to Kyle Buchanan about this, and he has talked to many, many Academy members that have not watched the movie. And they're not going to. They don't want to watch it.
I also think it's highly likely that Schrader is going to miss in screenplay.
Oh, yeah.
Again.
I mean, he's fared well in Precursors before and managed to miss at the Oscars for Taxi Driver and for Raging Bull, for which he got Golden Globe nominations for Best Screenplay and couldn't even make the cut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
in a year that's not really strong in original screenplay either, too.
That's been A24 dropping the ball at creating the proper narrative for him, and also for Paul Schrader not knowing when to shut up.
Yes. Yes.
I have this whole problem with A24 this year in general. The fact that they didn't put out a single FYC campaign this year for Colette, for First Reformed, 8th Grade. I still believe that they had genuine contenders this year on their hands. And it feels like they just chose to sit out this year, which, whether it's because of money or whatever, I fine. But like, I don't know. I just felt like I don't know. It felt like me and a bunch of other people on Film Tour were like the only ones campaigning for people like Toni Collette this year. And it's just been, I don't want that job. That's a tough job. It's hard.
Yeah, it's too bad, because they have 3 huge critical hits that all deserve multiple nominations, not just single acting or single screenplay nominations, and they are likely to max out at 1.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a very sudden drop after Moonlight and Room and so many successful campaigns. Lady Bird even. Yeah.
It really is, and
Sad.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to supporting actor. Do we indeed think that Mahershala is going to be that 2 in 3 years?
Yeah, my boys went in 2. I love Mahershala Ali. I loved him in Moonlight so much, and I thought it was one of the best supporting actor performances of the decade. And while I'm not a fan of Green Book, I do think he takes that screenplay that is problematic, and because he's such a talented performer, he elevates it to places that it doesn't necessarily need to go. I know there's this whole controversy with Don Shirley's family and them not really liking the film, and he's kind of addressed it. It's like, I can only do so much as the actor. I don't know why we have to ask Mahershala Ali. He didn't write the script or direct the damn film. He just played the character. And I really was hoping that Richard E. Grant would get a lot more love in this awards race, because I think he's campaigned very well. I mean, Matt, I listened to your interview with him. I've listened to almost every interview with him, and he just feels so real and authentic. And his performance with Melissa McCarthy and Can You Ever Forgive Me? That's some of the best chemistry I've seen in years. And Mariel Heller should be applauded for that. She should be getting more. That whole film should be getting more awards attention than just those two performances. And I would love a world where Richard E. Grant somehow squeaks in a SAG. I don't think it's going to happen. I think maybe the Sam Elliott thing works for him. I doubt it. I think it's Mahershala. He's probably, out of all of them, the most recognizable, most celebrated actor this year, and I just think it's going to go to him. And 2 out of 3 years, it's a Christoph Waltz kind of situation, to be honest with you. And
well, I think Ali's going to benefit, obviously, from the massive category fraud, but but also as the person that is going to come out the most unscathed from any Green Book controversy, because even before the real controversies came out, and it was just the no, even before Vigo, really, but actually right at Vigo, all of the questions were being directed at Mortensen to respond. And it was really unfair, and it was really awkward, and it was really, really slanted. And he's done nothing but handle it with tremendous grace. And I think that is going to benefit him enormously, that goodwill. He is also fantastic in the movie. He's really, really good. And he is very, very well liked. So it seems pretty like an easy win. The Grant thing is so strange because he is by far the biggest critical winner. But again, we're seeing a little bit of what's happened last year, that the top 4 people in each category with critics are not the ones that we're seeing likely to win, except for Regina King, and her run is done for right now. For now,
until the night before.
Indie Spirit winner.
She's going to win the Oscar, but still, it's a weird year again, and I think we're going to see a little bit of what we saw last year.
Well, wait, which is what exactly? Sorry.
Which is the top critics winners in the acting categories not translating directly to Oscars, or even SAG and BAFTA.
Oh man.
Yeah, I would agree that it's Ali, but I do think that there are potential potholes down the road for him. I think that it's plausible that Sam Elliott could potentially win at SAG, just because he's worked with so many folks in the industry over several decades. And if they want to give A Star Is Born something in some category at SAG, that may be an opportunity to give the film sort of a consolation prize. And then at BAFTA, I mean, Grant is probably still the favorite to triumph there.
Yeah.
So it's plausible that Ali won't win either of those, and that it will be a somewhat competitive race heading into Oscar night. It's also just as plausible, of course, that Ali wins SAG, potentially even BAFTA, and just cruises. But I hardly think he's a shoo-in by any stretch.
It would be pretty funny if Ali only won the Globe, which is the only thing that he lost for Moonlight.
Right.
And then lost everything else.
And he did win the BAFTA.
And the BAFTA. Like if he only won like the things that he lost before.
Got to make up for last time. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I mean, like, my narrative all year was Ali would win the Globe to make up. Yep. And then
Check.
and then I thought Richard E. Grant would win the Critics' Choice and the BAFTA, and Sam Elliott would win the SAG, and then we'd go into Oscar night not knowing what to do. So when Ali did win at Critics' Choice, I just immediately said to myself, this is the way for those who love Green Book to get their win and walk away unscathed, like you said, because nobody's going to complain about Ali winning.
Nope,
nobody is.
And that's no, I mean, and also too, he's got True Detective airing right now.
Yeah,
and that definitely helps because I'll tell you, I watched the first 2 episodes. He's amazing. Like we don't already know that, but I think that this. I don't want to admit that he's going to sweep the rest of it and go on to win the Oscar. I don't want to admit it only because for variety's sake, I would like to see somebody else get a shot to win an Oscar in this category. But hey, I'm not going to begrudge the performance or anything. I think he's really amazing in it. And I actually would say he's better than I thought he was in Moonlight. But hey, you know, I'm one of those people.
Well, and also the Shirley family has come around to praising Ali.
Yeah.
So again, he has.
Because he was gracious enough to reach out to them.
Yes, I wish he had done it before.
And which
I don't know how you play a real life person and not go to those links.
Yeah,
to learn about them.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I think that shows a lot to his character, in that, you know, the whole narrative, of course, of Nick Vallelonga and then, you know, everything that's gone on with it. It's like that they don't care what the Shirley family says and we're making this movie, but he does, and that just shows. I mean, Mahershala Ali is such a great guy. I mean, to be honest with you, and you don't have to teach that. You're born with that, or you know what I mean, and you have those instincts to be a good person and say, yeah, let me just make a phone call, or maybe go sit down with somebody and tell them and talk to them. And he's getting this Oscar, guys, and I could see Grant winning the BAFTA, just because, you know, I think he deserves to at least have a little bit of time in the sun.
He's never even been BAFTA nominated.
Yeah, I know. Well, hey, Mahershala was nominated last time and he didn't win. So
I don't know. It's funny, and I don't know if this is the reason why. So I'll throw this out to you guys. When you say, like, you know, I think Grant's going to win BAFTA or Coleman's going to win BAFTA. Is that just entirely relying on the fact that they're British? Because I don't buy that. I don't buy that.
Well, the favorite got the most nominations at BAFTA. Now,
got the most nominations at Critics' Choice.
I understand that, but yes, I definitely do think that there is a British, you know, aspect to it for sure. Like, I'm not saying the favorite's going to win Best Picture or nothing like that, but if you want to tell me, oh God, I would love for it to happen. Favorite's my favorite film of the year. But if you were to tell me the favorite's going to win screenplay, costumes, and Coleman at BAFTA, I'd be like, yeah, okay, I could see that happening.
Yeah,
I mean, the Grant thing, I think for me it's almost wishful thinking almost, because I just want to see him have his moment because I have to say I have fallen in love with him on this campaign trail, and he really is such a charmer, and
he is, and he's having so much fun.
He is, and that energy is so infectious. I want to see him get up on stage and share that with the world.
Yeah,
well, and they the Academy likes that. The Academy, it likes it when you want to win. They like it when you want to campaign, unless you're Monique in a totally undeniable performance.
Mm-hmm.
In which the lack of campaigning was in its own way sort of a campaign.
It absolutely was.
It still is to this day.
Yeah. It still is. It was I don't know if you could ever replicate that. It was fucking flawless.
Yeah. For me, I'm a little bit surprised Richard E. Grant hasn't at least taken one, you know, that sort of thing, but because I really do think he knows so well how to work a room and has all these great anecdotes. He's worked with so many people. He's a industry legend with over 140 credits or whatever. So there's a lot with that, but it just seems like it's one of these things where it's a complete disconnect between critics and industry, much like Willem Dafoe and Laurie Metcalf, sadly.
Well, that's the thing too, like with like Sam Elliott, where like you can't have so many actors with the same competing narrative.
That's true.
Yeah. Of like, I've never been nominated and I've worked for 30 years in 100 movies. There's a lot of people that can do that. Amy Adams not, winning and being overdue had that narrative, and Glenn Close has the narrative. So not everybody can have it.
Yeah. No, that's totally true. And in that case, then we look at it like the nomination is the reward.
Yeah.
And and that's what I go, like I said, that's what I go back to is like, the nominations for me is what matters. The fact that you're nominated, that you were in the 5 out of all these other performances this year, that says something. And then who wins after that? I mean, there are so many external factors, so many political factors, so many things. And when they get up there and they say, I don't know who decides these things are random, etc., and they say stuff like that, or awards don't matter, whatever they want to say. It's kind of true in a sense, because there's no best. There really is no best at that point. But recognizing, listen, I'm trying to be a good sport.
You don't need to be Switzerland here.
But I think that's my way, at least, of a defense mechanism of not getting emotionally invested, so that, like I said, when certain people lose, I don't go, ah.
I think wins are important. I think they can be extremely representative. Regardless of the
when you have that platform and you give that speech.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah.
Regardless
I get that.
of the complaints of the Oscar ratings going down, there's still a humongous international event. And when Moonlight won and Adela Romansky said, people are around the world are seeing, little black boys and little brown girls being able to see themselves and see something and see these kids up here. That means a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that means a whole lot. I got super ridiculously emotional in the podcast that I did after the Oscars, because
I'll never forget that.
I remember that too.
That moment was life-changing for some person, like literally life-changing, as in they might have been on the brink of suicide and decided not to because they felt seen. That is a very, very real thing. And if you have not been in a position like that, where you haven't felt seen and you haven't felt represented, that moment can be a watershed moment. And I'm not saying here's the reason why a movie should win Best Picture. I'm just saying that the wins have potential for a lot of things. Not to mention, too, they can raise the an actor or an actress's rate and visibility and what they can bring to a studio, and that could be somebody that's, like we're going to talk about supporting actress in a minute. And when Regina King wins, she can really put that 50-50 promise to the test.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric, you're talking about that in the context of Barry Jenkins, and that Barry now holds, I think, the keys to the future of cinema. I think he's one of the master directors that we're going to have for years and years and years to come. And and I always get pissed off at people because they had that study that came out today that I read where like many Americans still think that La La Land beat Moonlight. And because of the whole it was a big piece out there today.
There's a lot of people that turned the show off right after.
Yes, exactly. And I sat there, and I've always been mad about that night because people always think about the blunder and they don't think about what Adela Romansky said and what Barry said and what Barry continues to say and what he continues to do. I mean, I know you, Eric, got to spend the other night jealously with him. But I have to tell you that I think Barry Jenkins is we don't deserve him.
We don't.
He's a great guy. And now as we're getting towards,
I'm going to say that I do.
Well, no, like we're not worthy. Like I'm not. Like if I ever meet him, I'm gonna freak the hell out because I just think that he taps into things that I can't even imagine. I for people that aren't me, he taps into my soul and my brain. And when I was watching Beale Street, and especially Regina King's performance, and the performance from Kiki Lang and Stefan James and everybody in that film, and the score by Nicholas Bertel, I mean, it just enwraps you. And that's why I've never said to count out Barry Jenkins out of this award race, because he like everyone's talked about First Man getting below the line nominations, and will that lead to a surprise best picture? I mean, Barry has this effect on everyone when you talk to him, Eric, as you know, where you just love the guy and you love his movies, and he's making movies for us at an important time. And so, yeah. Sorry, Kevin. I guess that means we transition to supporting actress and Regina.
I want to just say really quickly too, really quickly, because I find this very, very funny. How hysterical is it that for the 9th spot in Best Picture, it's going to be either Damien Chazelle's film or Barry Jenkins's film?
I know. Tell me about it.
Those two, I swear to God, I want them to keep releasing their movies the same years throughout the rest of their career.
They are intrinsically linked.
I love this year because we've gotten so many great movies. This is one of my favorite years in a really long time. But I also hated it because we had McQueen and Cuarón going head to head again, and then Chazelle and Jenkins going head to head again in the same year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we shouldn't think of them as going up against each other. Why don't we just enjoy the damn films and live in a world where we're getting movies?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, purely from a pundit standpoint. So when I was doing, predictions in March and April, I'm like, I've got all 4 of these guys here. What in the world is going on? They're not all going to make it.
Yeah, dude, it's been a wacky year. I don't think any of us would have ever predicted that we would be where we are right now.
Absolutely not.
That's good though. I mean,
it is.
Yeah. Like I said, it's what keeps it exciting.
I mean, it's great to have a prediction from back in March, still hold true. That's great, and most of us I think can do that to a certain extent with a few things. But yeah, if it was the same that whole way, my God.
Yeah. Just really quickly, I wanted to end supporting actor by asking you all what you think is going to be like in the 5th slot, because most people seem to agree Mahershala Ali, Richard E. Grant, probably Sam Elliott, and probably Adam Driver will be getting in, unless you guys have anything different there.
This is a category I'm sticking with the SAG-5.
Okay. And so the 5th slot presumably could be Timothée Chalamet because he gets into all the precursors. But as we've discussed, Michael B. Jordan is here. Maybe even Sam Rockwell if hell freezes
No.
Golden Globe and BAFTA.
Let's give it to Will Ferrell more than we should give it to Sam Rockwell. How about that?
There's no way. I love Vice. That should not happen. I'm sorry.
I actually have Michael B. Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think Coogler's going to get him for director, which is sad. But he was completely snubbed for Creed, and he's one of the best parts. If you love Black Panther, and I think we can all agree we really like Black Panther, or some of us might even love it, and I do love the film. I think it's the best Marvel movie that they've ever made, and because it's not a Marvel film, it's a Ryan Coogler film. And I think it's undeniable he's the best performance in the film. And he has such a character arc of any villain that I haven't seen in a comic book movie since Ledger's Joker, that you find true empathy and sympathy for him. And I love Timothée Chalamet. I mean, I loved him in Calling Me by Your Name, but I am on record as hating his performance in Beautiful Boy. So much so that I liked Steve Carell's performance more than his Beautiful Boy.
That's odd.
That's possible.
I don't know how it's possible, folks. It just was. But I will say that I know he's been everywhere, but I know that Black Panther is going to show up big at the Oscars. I mean, we didn't have a popular film thing for nothing. And
we're on it now.
And I think he's going to get in there.
Here's two things I will say about
it's a little bit of my no guts, no glory pick.
I'll say something for him, and then I'll say something that's working against him. For him, Ryan, I'm with you that Black Panther is a leading nominee, potentially could get up to 10 nominations on Oscar nomination morning, heading for a Best Picture nomination. I think that's pretty undeniable at this point in time. And I think Michael B. Jordan could definitely come along with that for sure, even though he has only gotten Critics' Choice and has not landed at any of the others for a nomination. He's in the Ethan Hawke, Toni Collette, Yalitza Aparicio space, and we can't predict them all to get in on nomination morning, but he's someone that you could feasibly make an argument for because the film itself is going to get nominations elsewhere. And like you said, when you think about that movie, you definitely think about his character. However, this is what I think might be working against him a little bit. I've heard a lot of people say that the reason why that performance is so good and the reason why we think about that character isn't so much him, it's more so for the writing that is given to that character. And the film could get an adapted screenplay nomination after getting a WGA and a USC Scripter nomination there. And I could just, I don't know. I could definitely see it going either way, and I'm not prepared yet to say which way it's going to go. I want it to be him badly, but I think I am. It's one of those hearts versus brains thing again. My brain says stick with the SAG-5, like Erik said.
Go ahead, Andrew. Sorry.
Yeah, I actually have Chalamet missing. I suspect he will be one of the, perhaps the only person who's gotten everything and ends up missing. I do have Sam Rockwell making the cut. You know, perhaps it's a little bit of afterglow from his win.
Why do you hate yourself?
I feel so sick.
Yeah, I suspect both Sams are going to make the cut. I mean, I don't know what to say.
I will be shocked if Sam Rockwell gets in for this.
Oh God, no, I won't be shocked.
No, I will be, because I think it's just such a unworthy Oscar performance.
I mean, had he not received the BAFTA nomination, perhaps I'd be thinking differently. But the fact that he landed both there and at the Globes, I think puts him in a decent position.
Just international voters looking at that performance and saying, "Oh, there's George Bush. Remember George Bush? Oh, yeah, I'm gonna vote for that. That's funny." That's I can't see it any other way.
Well, that might be enough for some Academy members too.
Yeah, that's true.
Unfortunately,
and he just won. So he's got the narrative of recency bias there.
Yeah, no, it won't be a surprise. And I think, and if I look at my things really quick and make sure, he is in 6th. Yes.
Yeah.
I have both the Sams in 5 and 6.
Man. Well, I'm playing it safe and doing the SAG-5 personally. Because I feel like Timothée Chalamet, I know, Ryan, you say it's not
good.
You seem very emotional about how much you don't like the performance.
No, it's not that I don't like the performance, but I love Timothée Chalamet. I think he's
sure, yes.
It's nothing against him. It's just the performance, and I didn't like the film overall, so it's not helping.
Well, I think either way, it's a performance that can leave an impression on you, either for better or for worse. Which is why I kind of think he can get some of those #1 votes in supporting actor, in addition to his own charms and the fact that he's schmoozing with everyone. Still, again,
even schmoozing at other people's parties,
right? So
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, he was at the Beale Street party.
There you go.
And I will say too, it's not like he did not get critics nominations for supporting actor, and only got these industry award nominations. Like, he has been present throughout the season with this film. So to say it's unanimous, I mean, that's debatable, but I would say that he's in a better position than maybe we're giving him a little bit of credit for. With that said, along with my Mortensen prediction, if there is anyone that is going to miss, I believe it's going to be either him or Mortensen, who lands at all of them, Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, BAFTA, SAG, and doesn't make it in. I don't see who else that could be that has landed everywhere this season.
Yeah, it's really too bad, too, because we have, Michael B. Jordan with a great performance, and I also agree, probably one of my favorite villains, certainly comic book villains ever, is his character narrative is much better than Heath Ledger's Joker, and I will fight anybody on that. It's just better.
I agree. I agree with that.
I'm stepping back.
It's more historically rooted, and
yes.
And I thought that was just.
It's a modern day new telling of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and that's what makes it so freaking awesome.
He should win for the scene in the museum alone. But anyway.
Oh yeah.
But we also have like Steven Yeun in Burning.
Oh my God! If he got in,
Russell Hornsby. And these are people that have won more things than Timothée Chalamet. Timothée Chalamet's won San Diego, and that's it.
Yeah, man. If Steven Yeun got in, I would.
Oh my God!
I would do backflips, and I can't do backflips. So
yeah, it would be awesome. It'd be amazing.
Either one of those two getting in would be incredible. I wanted Russell Hornsby to happen so badly after I saw The Hate U Give. That was such a powerful supporting performance this year that truly, truly rocked me. And I was very, very disappointed to see critics not go so hard to bat for him as I was hoping for. But you know what? It will probably lead to better things, I hope, down the line for him at least. So
we should move on to supporting actress because we're running.
Oh God, we have to do this, don't we?
Yes. It's been probably the most chaotic acting race of the year, just in terms of people wondering what's going on with Regina King missing at SAG and BAFTA. Like Margot Robbie is suddenly a factor, Emily Blunt possibly, and then Claire Foy kind of starting off good but missing SAG. Also, we don't know how well First Man is going to do. Also, is Amy Adams maybe going to take over after Regina King, gets the Critics' Choice Golden Globe, but then maybe Amy Adams wins SAG, or Rachel Weisz wins SAG and then wins BAFTA, and maybe she's going to go on to her second Oscar. So, there's a lot going on right now. I want to go through it with relatively brisk pace since we're running out of time, but what's everyone's feelings? Do we think it's just going to be Regina King at the end of the day?
Yes.
No. Yes. I'll settle.
The only way.
God.
The only way that Regina King loses is if SAG and BAFTA can somehow match. So I think that Rachel Weisz would have to probably win SAG, so she'll probably win a BAFTA. Even then, though, I think for Academy members to decide between Weisz and Stone is going to be an awfully tall order. But I think in that scenario, that's where Regina finds herself most vulnerable. If they split, then I think Regina's in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
I think that Amy Adams... put me on the spot here about SAG because I still haven't picked it yet. I will say that Amy Adams is going to win SAG just because she's also going to be there for Sharp Objects. So she'll have, I think I said this already. So on your show, Matt, that I think she's going to walk away that night a double winner.
Yeah.
She's going to take that into BAFTA, and then she'll lose BAFTA to Rachel Weisz, who gives my favorite supporting actor performance. And I know it's not popular, but she's my favorite performance in The Favorite. I know people say Coleman and Stone, but I loved Rachel Weisz in that. And she's had such a great year too, with also Disobedience, and people forgot about that film as well. But they love Barry and they love Beale Street. Then they're also gonna love King, and it could very well pull out, kind of like it did at Indie Spirits, where it pulls out one nomination for Barry in the screenplay category, Regina King, and picture. And I think she's going to win that Oscar. She's so loved. I mean, you wouldn't think of it, really, to be honest with you. You wouldn't think of it as how... I know we all love her. We all love Regina King. But when she won that Emmy, I was like, the standing ovation and the speech, and then when she won Golden Globe, I was like, oh my God, it is true. People really do love Regina King, and she's been in Oscar films before. She was in Ray, and she gave a great performance in that as well. And she is what Mahershala Ali is to Moonlight. She is what that equivalent is for If Beale Street Could Talk. She and her performance has a little bit more in the film, and I love her in that film. That mirror scene alone is better than anything those other 4 nominees will have done in any category this year. And she's winning this. It's gonna be great to see her up there. And Barry, if Barry could get Mahershala that Oscar, I think he can get her that Oscar.
I told him he's the supporting Oscar whisperer. I said everybody, whatever he does in the future, everybody's gonna be like, you got a supporting performance in there that I can jump in on.
Because even Brian Tyree Henry is like, I'm gonna try to get in here at the last second too. You know?
I want that.
But I banged the drum for him pretty hard. I wanted that to happen.
I really do too.
I'm gonna weigh in on this for just one quick second, because someone brought this up and it entered my mind, and now I can't get rid of it. And I know it's different. I'm gonna just preface by saying I know that it is different. But Stallone won Critics' Choice and Golden Globe, and he also was not nominated for SAG, and he also was not nominated for BAFTA. Got the Oscar nomination, and a lot of us still predicted him to still win the Oscar when the warning signs were there leading up to that nomination, that because he was the sole nominee for his film, and the lack of support, and Bridge of Spies had more support, that it was probably going to go to Mark Rylance, who also won the BAFTA. Now, Mark Rylance didn't win the SAG. That actually surprisingly went to Idris Elba that year, which was pretty awesome, and he should have gotten a nomination as well. That was just a weird year in general. I think we're heading for a similar trajectory with this, where, in terms of the nomination and wins, and it just being a very weird year, and what it's all going to come down to. This is what I will base my prediction of Regina King on, because I'm picking her for now, but this is what would cause me to switch. It's not if one person wins BAFTA and SAG together. It's how well does Beale Street do on nomination morning outside of King? Like the support for this movie in the guilds is just non-existent, and it's been so disheartening to watch. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure Barry's getting the adapted. I'm pretty sure the score is getting in.
Yep.
But outside of that, that's what's scaring me.
And then do you have it in Matt as pitcher right now?
I do, because
So that's 4.
Yes, I have it in picture because I do believe that Best Picture tends to revive something that tends to not do so well with the guilds, and it's usually an indie film that needs the support, like Room or Phantom Thread. I could see Beale Street being that passionate indie, we really, really love this movie, let's save it, pick.
I think the thing about Stallone is that
nominations too, though.
Say again, I'm sorry.
Both of those got director nominations at the end of the day.
I know. And God help me, wouldn't it be great if Barry could get in that director lineup?
I
Could still happen.
I understand your reasoning for that completely, Matt. Totally. Yeah. I will dismiss the Sylvester Stallone comparison.
Yep.
Okay, that's fair.
But only because he doesn't compare to Regina King.
No, and that's why I said, I preface by saying I know it's different. I know their personalities are different, how they're respected within the industry. I get that.
But yeah, I completely understand that the people that King is going to be up against are going to be in stronger films.
Right.
Most likely.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's not Regina King,
God,
who do we think it could be?
Rachel Weisz.
Okay.
I think she could win it. I think there's going to be a little bit more love for the favorite than Weisz. I know that we've talked about the overdue narrative, but also too, I think it's been a long time, and people, in some ways too, people kind of forgot about that performance in Constant Gardener, which is really good over the years. And she had a really good year, and they're not. I understand that she's going to compete against her own castmate in Stone. To be honest with you, I would say Weisz, just from not only just personal preference, but I think also too, I think it's the better performance from the two. And I mean, I really do not want to see Amy Adams win the Oscar for this, because it's such a blah performance from her. I can't even tell you a scene, to be honest with you.
I can't tell you.
I know you can, Matt, because I know you like the film, but as somebody that was in the middle on it, I'm like, okay, maybe the Shakespearean scene in the bedroom.
No, it's the scene where she tells him that he's got to get his life in order.
And that is pretty much the only one, yeah.
And that's like what,
and that's at the
20
beginning.
seconds, like 30. Yeah, it's like right in like what 20 minutes.
I hear what you're saying, and I totally understand it completely. But I do also have to ask myself this question too, which is, are they really going to because that the campaigners are going to push the narrative for Amy, like Eric said before, even though it is competing with the close narrative,
It's competing with the Regina narrative also.
Well, no, the narrative of how many nominations will this person go without a win.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't even nominate her for Arrival, so why would they give it to her then for Vice?
And isn't it funny how like the outcry for Arrival now it's going to be like, all right, we're giving her an Oscar. Can you people shut up about Arrival now? And then we're all going to be mad anyway.
I think we're all bearing the lead that what we're talking about, if King is not the winner, is another face-off between Adams and Vice, which is where this all started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that would be pretty messed up. And Weiss didn't even win the BAFTA for that. She won SAG.
Mm-hmm.
And Adams has never won a personal SAG.
Yeah,
that's multiple nominations.
That's crazy. That's got to change this year, I feel
so,
like.
You know what could absolutely happen is Adams winning SAG because she hasn't. And they actually like overdue stuff more than Oscars or anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then BAFTA going to Vice. And then you've got a real like
real barn burner pick.
Then it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you guys this question. I know that we're saying Rachel Weisz, but what if something very out of left field happens, something that we're just not predicting, like a Claire Foy, for example,
to win?
No. Just like what if she wins BAFTA? Let me put that out there for a minute. It just as a hypothetical.
Margot could win it.
But I'm talking about Foy right now.
Margot's nominated, right? Correct.
Yeah.
So
for BAFTA,
for SAG and BAFTA.
For SAG and BAFTA.
BAFTA. Yep.
Which is nuts, to say the least.
It's completely nuts.
It is completely nuts because another performance that I just think is over the top and unnecessary in this race. There's other. I mean, I don't have her in my predictions right now, to be honest with you.
No, I have Foy.
Yeah.
Me too. Robbie is number 6 for me.
Yeah, I have her at 6, and I wish Nicole Kidman for Boy Erased was up there. But I think she's gonna cancel herself out, and I think Foy's gonna get in there. I don't see Foy winning BAFTA, to be honest with you. It's
Weiss and nobody else.
Well, I mean, Adams could win BAFTA. I mean, I'm not taking her out of the equation. I mean, let's not also. And I know this is kind of a long shot. We're not talking about her, but what if Emma Stone won one of these awards? I mean, she's very loved, and she just won. And I know it's kind of crazy, but
Ryan, she's my personal performance in the favorite, actually.
Yeah, I mean, she gives, my opinion, her best performance of her career because it was a totally unexpected performance. I was just like, oh, Coleman's gonna be great, and Weiss is gonna be great, and then I was like, oh, Emma Stone, and she fought to get that role because he did not want to put an American in that film, and she went above and beyond. And I think she's a lead, to be honest with you, in category totally fraud. But she's really good. And so, I mean, maybe they cancel each other out, or maybe one of them comes out. But I think one of the girls from The Favorite are going to win BAFTA.
Emma Stone is the only actress that has won Critics Awards outside of Regina King more than one. She's the only one that's won more than one.
Well, which Critics Awards are we counting here? Because I've got Rachel Weisz with 6 wins.
6 wins with who?
With the I only got the abbreviations here, so bear with me. The HFCS, NFCS, the OAFFC, the VFCS, which I think stands for Vancouver. She also won the British Independent Film Award for supporting actress.
I'm not counting that.
Okay, that's fair. But I'm just saying there have been times where people have singled out her performance this season.
I missed Vancouver. I'm looking at my list. I'm like,
But I listen. I think that we're all discussing these scenarios because we're
looking for logic. Yeah. We're looking for a path and
I want to.
Yeah, because without King, there is no path. She's the only one I feel like with a path this year because Adams's path died when Vice got these polarizing reviews. Otherwise, it would have been her path.
Yeah, Andrew, what do you think? Who do you think is going to take it out of the two?
Yeah, I mean, I suspect that Adams is the likely runner-up. I suspect she will win SAG, but I do think Vice will win BAFTA, and I think the lack of an obvious alternative just helps Regina all the more.
Yep.
Unless Adams was to somehow take BAFTA, but I can't really picture that just because there's not that much enthusiasm for the performance, and I don't think that the overdue narrative for Adams is as prominent as the one for Glenn right now.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about how this is Glenn's moment, this is her time. there just isn't that buzz for Adams, and I think part of that is just because folks really aren't that enthused with the performance. I think a lot of folks would actually perhaps consider it the weakest of her nominated performances to date. So it would be kind of an odd win in that regard.
I wanted to just point out, I'm just looking at the numbers here. This would be her 7th BAFTA nomination.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, without a win. Just sorry, wanted to add that for context.
Well, and to go back to a few minutes ago too, she was expected to win because she was double nominated at both Golden Globes and Critics' Choice.
And the Golden Globes love her. They've given her 2 wins.
She was expected to win lead actress for Sharp Objects.
Yeah, she couldn't pull that off. It was a surprise. Yeah. Critics' Choice pulled their fuckery with a tie. So the narrative that Adams needs to be rewarded for something is not happening.
No.
And it could.
She also couldn't win at the place where her film got the most nominations.
Yep.
That's certainly not going to be the case with the Oscars.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there are everybody has dings. Everybody has obstacles to overcome. But it is really weird that with King out of the running of these 2 major industry ones, it's left to the other women to kind of have to fight over the scraps of that. And she kind of gets to sit back and just wait and win an Oscar.
Yeah, I had been kind of asking myself too in the back of my mind. Let's fast forward a little bit. It's right before Oscar. King has won the Critics' Choice. She's won the Globe. Hypothetically, if she was nominated at SAG and also at BAFTA, but she lost those 2, hypothetically, what would we be saying?
Well, that would be a whole different thing. I think she would need to win SAG, and BAFTA would be fine to lose.
Yeah,
that's probably right.
I agree with Erik.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because it almost seems like her not being in either one of those races works to her advantage then almost.
In this
case, that's just what I just said. It's weird, but in this case, really specifically, that's what it is. And the reason is because unlike last year with Sam Rockwell, or Allison Janney, there is not there's no clear, even Adams may be second, but she is like
the weak second.
A weak second.
Second, yeah.
And that's the problem for everybody else.
It's crazy.
Okay, so really quick, I want to just very briefly touch on the director race since we're running out of time. Alfonso Cuarón, pretty much everyone seems to be agreeing, is turning into a bit of a lock. I do think there is a narrative maybe for Spike Lee if something can come together for BlacKkKlansman.
I just always keep going back to Linklater and Fincher sweeping director wins, and fucking Tom Hooper wins the DGA, and it does only win the entire season, and that's all it took. So I won't believe anything about Cuarón until he wins DGA.
Fair enough.
Yeah, well, he is already a winner, but yes.
Well, that's exactly what I'm worried about. I am worried about the Netflix biasness. I'm worried about the black and white foreign language film aspect. I'm worried about the fact that Gravity was such a monumental achievement, and he was properly rewarded with a sweep that whole season for that movie, and that feels very recent. And for such a totally polar opposite kind of a movie, I have reservations. I would be ecstatic to see him win again. I think Roma is a flat out masterpiece, but I'm just not ready to say it's a lock yet. That's all.
I totally get it. Yes, he has to have DGA. But I think that's pretty easy for him. And, Iñárritu just did this a couple of years ago. So
yeah, I
don't have any reservations at all.
Yeah, Alfonso's winning this. I know I don't sound enthusiastic, though I love it. I just really would like to see Spike win Best Director, because I think BlacKkKlansman, and we've had splits over the last couple of years.
Yes.
Last year we didn't have a split, but we were still all predicting splits. some of us were predicting Get Out or Lady Bird, or I saw some people still on the Dunkirk train last year, and Three Billboards and Shape of Water and stuff like that. So we had like people talking about 5 films last year, and then of course everyone was talking about Del Toro winning director. That was obvious from the get-go.
Right.
It was like him. It was kind of like this. It was kind of like him and Nolan, right? Were the two guys that we talked about, and then Guillermo del Toro won DGA, and that shut that whole Nolan door in his face. And it's like, okay, maybe next time, Chris. This is a little bit different in that Cuarón's already won an Oscar for Gravity. And Spike, though he won an honorary Oscar, he's never won an actual Oscar for a film. And that's kind of crazy when you think about Spike Lee, and he's made it one of the greatest films I think of all time, and Do the Right Thing, and he's been around in business, and he finally made a film that is, I think, worthy just for this discussion, and also it's just so relevant, and it's so and it feels very personal, even in for anyone in this modern day, and it's totally him. You can just feel him throughout the entire process of that. And he's also been the tamest. Like Spike Lee can go off the rails, guys. He can go off the rails, and he can go and just scream. And I mean, Knicks fans know that. Knicks fans know that. You know what I mean? And
he's been great this season.
He's been so great. I mean, when I saw BlacKkKlansman, I keep saying this, I saw a Q&A with him, and was streaming from the Alamo Drafthouse in New York City, and he was so quiet. I'd never seen him that quiet, and he was so. And even watching the Hollywood Reporter Director Roundtable, he was very complimentary and very nice, and and everything. And I was like, "Who the hell is this guy?" You know what I mean? Like, I know Spike Lee more, because I've studied him in college, and I was like, Spike Lee is not this guy, and I was like, oh, he's going for that Oscar. He's trying to get that Oscar right there. I know what you're doing, Spike, but there's no denying the Three Amigos. I mean, they have a stranglehold on this, because not only because of the quality of their films, but man, they campaign very well, and they just know how to get it done. Also, if Roma doesn't win Best Picture, this is a beautiful way to give it to Cuarón. So, I think it's him all the way. The only one that could upset him is Spike until DGA, and then it's going to Cuarón, and it'll be 2-2.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. But
I do wonder if Spike would be better positioned to win had he not won that honorary Oscar.
100%.
Yeah. Which sucks.
I mean, it's perhaps an odd comparison, but I can't help but compare him a little bit to Peter O'Toole, who won an honorary Oscar, and after that, there was just no urgency to give it to him for Venus. Had Lee not received that honorary, I do wonder if he'd be poised to win this.
Yet, before that, Paul Newman won an honorary Oscar, and then he won his competitive the very next year.
True.
Yes,
which is
true.
Still regarded as a makeup win.
Yeah.
So and Ennio Morricone a few years ago did same thing, won competitive. 10 years later, got his honorary, then competitive. So there is precedent for it. And the Newman thing is so crazy to me still.
Yeah.
So it's there, but it's usually the reverse. You usually get your competitive, and then you get your honorary later on in your career. So I'm a little with you, Andrew, that it's not helping. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
And I mean, we all kind of thought, well, Cuarón would win director, and then Spike would win screenplay, or a lot of people did. I didn't think that. Matt's gonna go, he's gonna rub it into my face again, because I said on his show recently that Barry was winning that Oscar, and it's looking very, very, very much like Barry Jenkins is winning his second Oscar.
Guys, he's rubbing in my face again.
That USC snub is nothing to shake a stick at. It is.
I know. It shook me today. It really shook me.
Barry's winning that, and then original's still kind of up in the air. Probably, it's either Green Book or The Favorite. Most likely The Favorite. It's so Spike's gonna go home with nothing, and it's really kind of sad unless they win Best Picture. But I also think I know I thought about this during the award season too. You talk about like the narrative with Spike and that he just won the honorary and he's probably not going to win. Man, what if Jordan Peele had just went up and directed this movie and followed this up with from Get Out? Because he handed the script and he handed the story over to Spike and he said, Spike, you got to make this. And it's very like the story is very Spike, obviously. But like, would we be thinking? I think of that in the hypotheticals of like, oh, well, it might have been a different film because it's so Spike Lee when you watch it. It has all of his trademarks and signature camera angles and commentaries and whatnot. But I always kind of wonder, would BlacKkKlansman might have been a better Oscar player if Jordan Peele was running the show because he had so much love the year before and it had it like a back-to-back. But that's we live in the world that Spike Lee made that film and he made a masterpiece, and I don't care what anybody says.
It would be a strange thing to me for Alfonso Cuarón to win director twice and lose Best Picture to a film of African American historical context.
Yeah, but
I'm not saying it's like crazy optics, but it would be weird.
Well, I mean, technically, Steve McQueen should have won Best Director anyway that year, but he didn't, and that's when kind of all the splits started happening, and it's weird, but I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, nothing's out of the realm of possibility anymore.
Yeah, exactly. We have Bohemian Rhapsody in the race.
I just think it's it would be odd for me to have BlacKkKlansman win Best Picture, and that being such a specific artistic vision from Spike Lee, and him also not win director. I feel like that would be kind of at odds.
I would flip it though. I would love it if
Spotlight. I was predicting it to win screenplay and picture, and that was it.
There you
but
go.
After today with the USC scripter, I still have it in picture, but I believe me when I tell you, like, my confidence is waning and adapted. And once that happens, I need to take it out of picture. And once I do that, I just don't know yet what I want to put there. And what I'm waiting for before I make that change is I am waiting for PGA this Saturday.
So what do you guys have beyond presumably Bradley Cooper joins those three, but there have been actor-director snubs before. We know this, but we're just going to go with the narrative that he gets in. What's those final two spots, real quick?
Adam McKay, Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yeah. I have Adam McKay and Damien Chazelle.
Wow.
Ooh, shit.
I love it.
Eric?
I have McKay and Lanthimos too, which is the DG. No, not the DG5, but it's a really boring pick. But it's
BAFTA, I think.
It's the BAFTA.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah, I have the BAFTA.
No, it's not.
Oh, I thought it was.
No.
Because
Topolkovsky.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I have the same as Eric and Matt, but I do have the biggest but is that
the biggest but
is the biggest but is that I think Barry could get in big time here and surprise and be the PTA of this year and walk into the race.
Don't say that.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm hanging on to optimistic hope by predicting that, and I just don't want to go that far.
Because I would love to see Barry kick out McKay and
I'm sure we all would.
And make very happy for Eric.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
I just saw his face just lit up like a Christmas tree. It was Christmas all over again.
And you know what? Can I also say for the record too? I think it is very, very, very plausible that both McKay and Fairley miss. We've seen years where DGA gets 3 instead of 4. It can totally happen. And being that those two are perceived to be the weakest of the 5, definitely. But I have to say, when Chris Tapley and I think it was Scott, I want to say it was Scott Feinberg, were going on about Pawlikowski for Cold War.
They both have him.
I shrugged it off and I was like, that's so weird. That can't, no. Like, what? And after that BAFTA nomination, I was like, motherfucker. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. I was like,
I knew he was going to get into BAFTA, but and the European Film Awards, they totally dominated.
Oh yeah.
But I have him in 6th, and I'm just looking at it going, oh, really? really? I mean, I don't want to, dismiss them.
No.
But it's just...
Like, I know the director's branch could be idiosyncratic, but I don't expect them to go, like, that far by saving Lanthimos and putting in Powell. Then again, who the hell would have ever predicted what we got in 2012?
Well, I mean, also, too, I think 2 black and white films getting in there, I just don't see that happening. I know that that's... I know that in foreign language, I don't see that happening. So that's why as much as I love Cold War, I just don't see that getting in there.
If it does, it speaks to the membership expansion in the director's branch, which is the biggest expansion of international directors. So I think that's kind of where they're going, as well as, being LA based and talking to people. I totally understand that. But then, these are the same people that nominated Mel Gibson. So.
Yes, true. But it's also the same people that took out Martin McDonagh last year and brought us a complete surprise in Paul Thomas Anderson, which nobody had. So, I mean,
that was my favorite prediction last year, was predicting McDonagh's snub.
Yes. But PTA getting in there, Eric, did you have that?
No, I did not.
Yeah,
I had Sean Baker actually last year.
No guts, no glory over here. But I think that that's why I make the comparisons with Barry. Not only just because PTA did the Q&A over at the DGA for If Beale Street Could Talk, but I think that Barry, we've talked about him enough, and I've talked about him enough. He's just so damn likable.
I'm actually more interested in hearing what Andrew has to say about his pick for Damien Chazelle at this point. I really want to hear this.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really just a gut thing. I do have First Man in Best Picture as well, and of course several of the techs and Claire Foy. So to me, I can't fathom Peter Farrelly, especially at this point, making the cut. And I suspect,
I'm very, very confident he won't.
Yeah, and I suspect the favorite may actually underperform just a bit on Oscar nominations morning. So with that in mind, I find myself turning to First Man, which I see getting, a fair amount of nominations between picture, supporting actress, and then the text. So for me, Damien Chazelle stands out as somebody who, seems just as likely as Yorgos, and nobody else is predicting him, so might as well.
I the idea of Lanthimos missing too, and there is a weird thing that could happen with First Man, where it could potentially be the films in the expansion era to earn the most nominations without a picture nomination, because I think most of us are looking at 6 to 8 for that film. And if it hits 8 and doesn't get Best Picture, that would be super weird. Really weird. But can we have a little bit of director conversation over the fact that we have an amazing slate of female directors and none of them are to get in? Because
yes,
let's look at the Independent Spirit Awards, who nominated 3 women, and the Academy is going to nominate 0.
Yeah, and Deborah Granick deserves to be in that conversation.
I still think there is a world where Deborah Granick is maybe the surprise director nominee.
Yeah, I'd say she has the best shot.
So that would be so great.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that Mariel Heller has a movie that's going to get 3 nominations.
And you know what? She was the one that I chose to really try. Like, we tried hard, especially in our podcast review and then the episodes in the weeks after, to push the idea of her. Because I tell you, when you want to talk about a movie that's as tight as a snare drum this year, Can You Ever Forgive Me? That movie is directed to such perfection by her, but it's understated direction. And that's why I think people are just like not looking at it. It's not that flashy direction like Lanthimos or McKay that like really catches people's eyes. And even when you get something like the understated direction that does get through, like Spotlight, like Lady Bird, they're traditionally one of the films that's contending for Best Picture, and Can You Ever Forgive Me is not. And that in itself, I think, is also a shame. It's one of the best films of the year. By far, but I guess what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to add reasoning as to why I think this is happening for these particular contenders, which I think absolutely should be in the conversation. Like Lynn Ramsey has gotten, I think, the most wins this year from critics for Best Director, and she's not in the conversation because Amazon chose to dump that movie with little to zero marketing, and it's also it's kind of a tough sit for a lot of people. I don't think that there's, and it was also released early in the year. It's a year where I blame the studios. I blame the studios for the positioning. I blame the studios for the lack of support, the lack of marketing, the lack of belief that these could be awards contenders. I put it all on them because some of these movies really are so deserving. It's infuriating.
It's impossible to ignore the female factor of this too, because if You Were Never Really Here was directed by a man, it would have a lot more attention. If a woman directed Green Book or Vice, they would not have the same level of nominations that Adamich and Peter Farrelly have.
You mean in terms of like the same critical reception that they received?
Not critical reception. I mean industry nominations.
No. I mean like you're saying with that critical reception, and if they were directed by a woman, they would just be totally forgotten about and not even looked at. With a second eye, is what you're saying.
That's without question, because when you're in the minority of something, you don't just need to be as good as the majority that you are going up against. You need to be this much better just to be on the same playing field.
It's upsetting.
It's an indictment on the fact that we have two films from Peter Farrelly and Bryan Singer in a better Oscar conversation than Mario Heller and Deborah Granick.
I know.
That's all I need to say.
That's exactly what it is.
Yes.
There.
And they're making the films that I, as a cinema watcher, I like. I like these small scale, intimate, focuses on character and story and challenges me as a viewer, where Bohemian Rhapsody is just, here's a spoonful of sugar for you cinema goer.
Spoonful of sugar is Mary Poppins.
You know what I mean. But that's what I mean though, is like these are the films that are artful films. You Were Never Really Here is an art film, and it's something to be appreciated and studied, and like it's meant to dig in, beneath your skin. And I love that, and I would love to nominate that, but it's, I don't know. It's like, how do you change the masses' opinion on this other than, we have our podcast, we have our platforms, and we just push as much as we can and keep doing that until finally enough people wake the fuck up.
Yeah. And I'm looking at like a Lynn Ramsey, and I'm wondering like if that was like a David Lynch sort of thing, where it's like this, like it's this kind of obviously very avant-garde sort of film. Like, he gets in for Mulholland Drive, he gets in for Blue Velvet as lone nominations for those films. Mm-hmm. And like, wouldn't this be kind of worthy of its own? Because that is an incredible vision of its own. You Were Never Really Here. So
that'd be so badass, Kevin. I think that you just put the idea in my head. Now I want it to happen so badly.
But you never know. I mean, it's a growing academy. It's more women, younger people with, foreign components. I think there is going to be more of an appreciation of these kinds of films, of these kinds of visions. That is my optimistic hope.
Eric, you did say the director's branch is the one that grew the most.
They've had the largest percentage growth, not like total numbers, but percentage.
Oh, okay.
They've had the largest percentage growth for the size of their branch, and more international members. Yeah. So it gives me hope.
Yeah.
And certainly last year, which was like double the 2 years before, it was just enormous, the numbers that are coming in each year. And, that doesn't mean that everybody's going to vote. Is Lee Chang-dong going to vote in the Oscars? I don't know.
I hope so.
But speaking of, I cannot believe we haven't really talked about this. This is the first year with no paper ballots.
Yes.
And I talked to some Academy members this weekend, and the voting process online has some hurdles to get to.
Oh boy.
Where it's almost like you log into your Gmail from a different computer, and you have to put in a code that you get on your phone to verify that it's you, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, boy. Yep.
And this feeds right into that narrative that something like Green Book or Bohemian Rhapsody could win, because
no.
People are lazy, man.
It's the exact opposite narrative.
No. It is the exact opposite narrative. It's totally the exact opposite.
The older voters that are used to their paper ballots. Last year was the last year for paper ballots. And now they have to do it online. So unless their grandkids or their maids are going to do it,
somebody will get them. Somebody got them on there.
They might have some problems.
Oh my God, Eric, you're giving me hope right now.
Oh boy, this is dangerous.
That's why every year is its own year. We can do all of our stats and history and comparisons, but every year is its own bubble. Period.
Yeah, that's kind of a good way of wrapping up this absolutely insane year that this is. It's just, we talked for 2.5 hours just about how like this could go in any direction. It has shape shifted into its own thing that I never expected it to be, and that is for better and for worse. And I am very much looking forward to what the Academy will do here, because I feel like it's going to be a big mess, quite frankly. But before we go, I wanted to also just announce to you, 4 of you now, 4 out of the 5 people who are on the show, that there is another reason why I have invited you on. And I'm just going to do this really quickly, is earlier this month, I asked the listeners of this show to vote for their favorite episodes of And the Runner-Up Is. And I can reveal that the 4 of you, plus Rob, received the most votes for your episodes.
Crap. What is that?
Yeah. So you are kind of sort of the official nominees of this award, this inaugural And the Runner-Up Is award. And I can reveal the actual results live on this show to the world, if you are so inclined.
Yes.
Okay. Well, unlike the Academy, I will actually read out the placements, and I will just say that the 5 of you received far more votes than any other episode, so you are all winners. I will just say that. The 5 of you received the most positive feedback, and I just want to say that I appreciate you. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yes.
Thank you.
In 5th place, the top 5 out of 40 is, drum roll please, Pulp Fiction featuring Ryan McQuade.
Yay, Ryan.
I knew I was going to be 5th. All right. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud to be number 5.
You're the underdog that people are rooting for that got into that 5th slot.
Darn right. Well, I mean, I'm up against like all of you great guys that have had so much tenure, and to be even to be in the company of Matt and Andrew and Eric, who's been, like he said, around the block a bunch.
I'm going to be so happy to lose to Eric in a minute. Don't worry.
I'm going to do my best, Glenn Close. It is just an honor to be nominated.
And really quickly, tell the people where they can find you on the internet.
Well, you can find me at Ryan McQuade 77 on Twitter. I do the Chasing the Gold podcast for the In Session Film Podcast Network. I'll actually be recording an episode after this, which is great. And we also just did our end of the year awards. If you want to hear me and my co-host for In Session Film, Jay Ledbetter, and also JD Duran and Brendan Cassidy, talk for 3.5 hours over our awards, and then tomorrow are 3.5 hours over our top 10 films of the year. It is a marathon, not a sprint, and I hope you enjoy. Because we all stayed up till like midnight to do it, or 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was fantastic.
So the number 4 episode of 2018 is The Aviator, featuring Matt Neglia.
Yeah. All right.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Do you like to say a few words, plug wherever you can find you on the internet?
Yeah, there was no shady backdoor campaigning on my end for this one, so I am happy to take 4th place. You can find me at Next Best Picture. My podcast is called the Next Best Picture Podcast. I want to thank Kevin very much for inviting me onto this show again. I have to say, every single time I've been on, Kevin, it's been such a pleasure, and I absolutely love your show. I listen to it every single week. I've listened to all of your episodes that are here with me today. So thank you so much, Kevin, for giving us this show. It's been really, really a tremendous amount of fun. And yes, I'm supposed to be plugging my show. We cover award season. We talk about movies. It's awesome. If you haven't heard of us, just give us a listen, give us a check. I would really, really appreciate it. nextbestpicture.com, where the next best picture winner is always right around the corner.
Beautiful. And thank you for the kind words. So this is where it gets very fun. The number three episode of 2018 is Moonstruck, featuring Andrew Carden.
Oh my God.
Whoa, hey,
wow. Well, I have to thank Olympia Dukakis. I have to thank Norman Jewison. And most of all, I have to thank a certain Oscar nominee by the name of Sally Kirkland.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Beautiful speech.
Yes.
So where can people find you on the internet?
Yep. So you can find me on Gold Derby and on my blog, The Awards Connection. But for the most part, I'm just on Twitter at Awards Connect. And for the most part, I'm just talking about old Oscar races decades ago, half a century or more ago.
Yeah.
But I have to say, Kevin, thank you so much for your podcast. I think Oscar Runner-Up is really the creme de la creme of podcasts. And, it's a must listen for anybody who's into the award season or just movies in general. It's one hell of a podcast. So thank you
so much. It's been a blast.
Kevin, I didn't get to thank you. I was like in the basket of my goal. I feel like a dick now. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for coming on my show, by the way, too, because you've done that this year as well.
Yes.
And Kevin, I can't wait to keep hearing this show because Matt is right and Andrew's right. You do a fantastic job at this show, and yeah, you're great.
It's a labor of love. Thank you.
Yes.
So now we have now we have our final two, which is The Social Network featuring Rob Licuria and Brokeback Mountain featuring Erik Anderson.
Oh my God.
I'm giving you a standing ovation, Erik.
Wow.
I wish Rob were here to say his words, but the winner is indeed Brokeback Mountain featuring Erik Anderson.
Oh my God. Oh, that's awesome. That's really, really awesome. Yeah, I also want to start by saying how great your show is and how wonderful it's been to be on. I love the podcast. I love the how incredibly interactive and participatory your Best Picture threads are on Twitter. They get so much enthusiastic action and conversation, and it's one of my favorite things. I love it. I think you're doing a bang up job. I could only wish to do that well as that, honestly. I love it.
Well, thank you so much. That means a lot to me, especially coming from you, the elder statesman, as it were.
As it were.
So where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, yes, at awardswatch.com, and then on Twitter at awards_watch, where I'm most likely fighting against the anti-woke-topian army.
And we'll leave it at that. So, thank you so much to the four of you, plus Rob, for coming on with me today. It was a whole blast. We could talk about this for hours, as we have. And thanks for a great first year of the show, and I can't wait to delve into the new year. Yeah. So I will just reveal that in 2 weeks I will be coming back with season 3, and I will just tease you here, I'll be talking about Star Wars with Karen Peterson.
Oh, cool.
Wow. Great guess.
That is going to be a lot of fun. So thank you all again. You can find the show at Oscar Runner Up. The show is on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play. Rate, review, subscribe. And that's it. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thank you, Kevin.
So much fun. Thank you.